supposed guest contributor Wade. So, all right, if we're ready to go, hello, and welcome to Pod of the Dead. I am your host, Nicholas, and with me, as always, the two ravishing ladies, Stephanie and Natasha.
Hello. Hi.
On today's episode, we will be covering the 2016 film The Void, which I'm super stoked about doing because I love this movie. I'm just throwing it out there right now. I don't even give a shit. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Good night. That's the end of the episode. Yep. Before we did this episode, girls, what was your history at all with this film?
Go for it, Tasha.
The poster hanging in your basement.
That's it?
That's all I knew about it. I knew that you liked it. And honestly, from that point, it was just kind of what I thought it would be like based on the cover. And I was pretty wrong. But yeah, other than that, I didn't have any experience with it. I hadn't seen it before. No history.
Okay.
Yeah, and apparently we have a poster of it in our basement. And I guess I just don't pay attention very well. It's kind of nondescript, so it's like not like in your face. So yeah, I didn't know shit about this movie other than the title of it. And I honestly, when we heard about The Void, I was like, this is probably another one of those damn 80s movies that we're going to be stuck watching, or like 70s movies, because the title is a little like old sounding. Mm-hmm. And I was pleasantly surprised. It was very different than I expected. I had no idea. I didn't even know anything other than we kind of talked about it a little bit, but no like for sure understanding, other than I knew it was supposed to take place in a hospital. And that was it. I didn't know shit. So
yep. The reason that you don't notice the poster in the basement down here is it is kind of hidden a little bit. Back in the corner, it's not as on display as like the Thing one or the Stranger Things or all those where you just walk past them. It's just kind of tucked back behind a...
Well, yeah, there's an Alien one over here, and then we've got whatever we talked about this the last time.
13 Assassins by Takashi Miike. Come on.
Whatever.
Come on.
And then we have Crybaby over here,
yes.
So... But... Yeah.
Yeah, was it John Waters' Crybaby with Johnny Depp?
Yeah. It's actually a nice poster.
I was gonna say, I think that was a birthday gift for you or something. I can't remember. It was a gift.
It was a gift, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, before we get really, really into it, Tasha, you want to tell us a little bit about this movie?
Sure. The Void is a 2016 Canadian Lovecraftian horror film written and directed by Stephen Kostanski and Jeremy Gillespie, and produced by Jonathan Boffman and Casey Walker. It stars Aaron Poole, Kenneth Welch, Daniel Fathers, Kathleen Monroe, and Ellen Wong. The plot follows a small group of people who become trapped in a hospital by a gathering of hooded cultists and by grotesque creatures.
Does that about sum up the movie?
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. In a nice little sentence. Tells you what it is.
Without giving too much away, I don't think. My first knowing about this film, my history with it was I'd heard about it like on the internet as being this like throwback to 80s horror and like super like hands-on old school special effects. So they actually crowdfunded their effects for this movie through Indiegogo, and that's kind of how I found out about it, because at that time I was really into like Kickstarter and stuff like that, like backing board games and all that stuff, and then there's just too many to back. You kind of get burnt out on doing that stuff. But like this was one of the things that I do remember hearing about. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty rad. I hope that comes around. And then it came out, and I've followed, I think it's Astra 9, I think is the name of the company. Astron 6, sorry, is the name of the guys that directed this, and they've done other movies and stuff. The film after this that they did is called Psycho Goreman, which is just have you seen it, Tasha?
Oh, Yeah, I watched it with you.
Oh, okay, yeah, same guys. Like,
Okay.
they're more of a like ridiculous comedy kind of group of guys. Like they're more about just like these really farcical, like ridiculous things. And when they were coming up with this, they're like, what would happen if we actually made a real horror film instead of something that's tongue in cheek? So that's how this ended up becoming what it is. All right, so let's see here. If you have not seen The Void, it's kind of hard to find right this second without paying to rent it.
No, because you can stream it on 3 different sites that are all with the ads.
With the ads, that's right. Tubi and Crackle, they had it.
Yeah, stuff. I watched it on Tubi.
Okay.
Yep.
So how was your viewing experience with that, with the ads? Did that break any of the tension or anything? Or
no, I don't think. I honestly don't remember the points that the ads came up.
That's good. Because that's.
Did you stay awake?
I stayed awake for the whole thing.
Oh my god!
Yay!
Tasha made it.
It can be done.
Well, that's a 10 out of 10, guys. We got a 10 out of 10 on this one.
Yeah, and I even watched it like in the evening.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh dang!
That's the best time to watch it.
Yeah.
Was it just you, or did you have company while watching it?
Oh yeah, Drew does all my homework with me.
Did Wyatt stay up and watch it? Wyatt?
No.
Oh, you don't want this?
First 5 seconds, I would have been like, "Okay, bud, we're done here."
Oh yeah. The opening of this movie was intense.
Yeah.
And this is actually going to be the start of a little more relaxed way of doing an episode on my behalf, because I kind of got sick of going play by play on writing notes, but I did still write a decent amount of notes going into it, and that'll just leave more air in the room and stuff, so we can get more of your guys' thoughts and stuff, instead of just being like, if you've seen it, I'm just going to walk you through the movie. So
okay, cool.
Consider this Pot of the Dead 1.5, if you will, for our this is our Halloween spooktacular. No, it's not. That's the episode that actually just got put out. My god, time is such a weird thing. I literally I've spent this entire weekend editing our Halloween episode.
Wow.
So
yeah, and you want to relive all of that?
Not really.
All of my sniffles and
oh my
everything?
god, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. It was just the placement of your sniffles and stuff. You would end a sentence with a sniffle, and I'd just be like, God damn it. This is so much harder. Like, if it's just out in the middle of nowhere, it's just like, cut, gone. But it's like, oh, I don't want to cut off the end of your word.
No, I was listening to some of our gonna be Halloween episode, and as I'm like walking through the house, and all I hear is just me bitching up a storm about The Exorcist. So I'm like, listening to that tomorrow is going to be interesting. Okay, so do we know what the budget for this movie was?
Yep.
Did we look that up yet? Okay, yep. So what are we looking at?
So the budget for the film it's an estimation. I guess it's kind of what they told people for tax reasons, because it's not like a hard. Because it's just less than.
Oh, okay.
The budget was less than $82,510.
The budget for this whole movie?
Yeah.
80? No, say that number again.
$82,510.
There's no way.
Wow.
What the ever love? Oh, because they got it crowdfunded? Is that why?
I don't know. Well, let's see.
When did that money count?
Well, yeah, I would think so.
Here's the thing. This is what I have. Okay. The budget is less than that. So it says the creature effects were crowdfunded on Indiegogo and raised $82,510, while the film's funding was done through traditional channels by the production company. But there's nothing else showing that I found that says exactly what. So it was all out of pocket from the production. Like, they wrote it. Like, this is all on them, is how it kind of seems. And they're like, if we want to go the distance on this, we're going to need people to pitch in on it. So
that's confusing.
I don't honor, like, no, what they, okay. I don't like, there's so many things on the internet right now that I'm looking at that talks about like the budget is like the first thing you see when you type that in, it does say $82,000. Then you go and you see that their Indiegogo thing, that's how much they earned, I believe.
Yeah. That was
from there. Yeah. And then I'm kind of going down here and I'm like trying to find out like something.
Yeah, no, I think that was like, that's the legitimate budget. Everything else I think just came out of pocket from the Astron 6. Like they made it, it was theirs, so they didn't get any money outside of the creature effect stuff is how I understand it.
But it still should be part of your budget of how much it costs to make.
I don't know.
When a documentary about a mountain, that's not even the same freaking thing. Okay.
But
obviously the Void is like a name that could be used on a bajillion things, but yeah, it says that if that is what they made this movie for legitimately, like they didn't actually pay a whole lot of money, like that's insanity.
I am shocked. Yeah.
Because like we're low budget. Well, low budget for us is like to me $1 million, and that's usually we're running 90s, 80s, somewhere around there. We're talking what $100,000 just roughly.
The budget for this year for this is a year's salary for me.
Yeah,
like that's crazy cheap compared to like other films.
Yeah, 2016, like that's also, we're talking time frame, like that's insane. So I don't know, maybe it's just not out there telling us like the correct numbers, but
they got the mob involved.
I don't know, unless it was just a lot of time people were just, and like maybe it was just the cost of the product and people were just donating their time.
Lots of intern work and stuff, like
maybe
like.
And I do remember seeing that the directors had a background in like special effects and something else too. So maybe like that's where they cut costs because they knew how to do it.
They did the same thing.
So they didn't have to pay anybody.
They did the same thing with Reanimator and stuff, where like he had his own special effects school and his students worked on it, so it was free. And it's one of those things like it's one of those things like if you own a special effects company and stuff like that, if you're not charging the movie and you're eating the cost of it, that's not going to show up in the movie's budget. So I think that's
how they did it.
Well, and then when we watched the special features, they were also talking about how like they filmed this in like looks like an abandoned school. Yeah. So I'm wondering if the cost was down because of that. And they legitimately said with the house at the beginning of the movie, which this doesn't give anything away, they had a place scheduled, and then that kind of just fell through. And then they decided they were going to try to find another. And all they did was like drive through the countryside where they were filming and leave notes in people's freaking mailboxes to ask them if they could use their houses. Yes. So like
this is DIY as
so
fuck.
Cool.
Yeah.
So bare bones.
Well, that probably makes sense if their budget was this much and they kept saying, and like the extra features was like, we do not recommend making a movie this way. We do not recommend making a movie this way. Like, don't do this, because it was they had to film all of the entire movie in like,
20.
What was it, like 20 days?
Yeah, 20 days they shot it. And even then, like, I think the reason they ended up going to Indiegogo for the financing and stuff like that was because I think they had financial backing two separate times and it fell through. So they would be working on it and then just stop. And then they'd be working on it and then it'd stop. And that's how they ended up losing. They were going to do it in a dilapidated hospital. They had this road, they had this house, all this stuff, and everything kept falling through, or they would fall through and someone else would use it and just be complete dicks. So then when they'd be like, hey, we'd like to do our movie, it's like, we've already had a history with people doing movies here. We don't want to do that again. So a lot of that stuff. But yeah, what do you guys think? This did get a release and stuff. This wasn't like direct to DVD kind of stuff. Like, what do you think that it ended up making in its box office?
I just saw something on my phone, so I don't know. I have no idea.
I have a terrible frame of reference when it comes to this kind of stuff. So $2 million.
They would have loved that.
Oh.
No, it made 377,000. My God, numbers. You don't have to say 100 twice, Nick. But yeah. So about a third of $1 million. But I mean, on a budget of 82 grand, like that's nuts.
They made a huge profit.
Yeah. And like I said, like they're pretty DIY.
Weird. Well, it's just weird to me that this movie's out there and that it didn't really bring in that much money in the box office compared to, like, I don't know, we watched fucking Buffy and that movie did but it still made more money than that. Like,
but it was
weird.
in more theaters too. That's the thing. When you're an independent company, you can't get into every theater that you want. Buffy and stuff had the backing of a big studio, and those studios just already have contracts that all of their movies are going to be in front of 500 on 500 screens or something like that. This, considering I don't have all the details or anything, but these guys legitimately would have had to have shown this at a festival and stuff. People would have been psyched about it and then been like, hey, AMC, can we get in your theater for a day? Hey, can we do this for a day? Like, so
yeah, but for the quality of this movie, like, I felt like the quality of this movie was really good. Like, yeah, overall, like, especially knowing the budget, that's insane. Yeah, like, that's just insane.
It definitely shows that it's a product of love. These guys and girls definitely love the medium of making movies and the practical effects of it all and everything that it shows, like, through and through on this movie.
Yeah. I mean, they did talk about how they had to cut a few things because it wouldn't fit in their budgetary or time constraints that they had to make this.
Yeah, there was a huge spider monster we were supposed to see, and I didn't get to see it. And I want to see the spider monster, damn
it. Yeah.
Do you know why they only had 20 days to make it?
That's all their budget. Like, okay, so what I'm guessing is how the budget works is $82,000 and stuff is enough to pay the outside workers for 20 days. Once those 20 days are through, we can no longer afford this, because they were saying, like, they had to cut stuff because they just ran out of time. Gotcha. Because it's not shot like in chronological order. They're like, all right, we're going to shoot this, 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 bounce it all around, catch it all together. And then, yeah, they were just like, yeah, there's no way that we can do this. Like, there's not enough time. This is going to take a 3 days to shoot this thing, and it's not going to give us the payoff that all this other stuff will do.
Yeah, and then they were also talking, which I thought was neat, was that people that were on big budget films were leaving working on big budget films just to come help them, is what they said. They're like, to come help us. So I think a lot of this was just like they had built this relationship with people, or like some kind of like whatever with them, and they've decided to come and help them just because they wanted to. Like, it wasn't like they were from the sound of it, obviously they probably didn't make it much, if any, money. So and that would make sense as to why, like, all the actors in this movie are also, they're, other than one, I didn't recognize any of the other ones, and most of them have very little back, like, as I went and looked in to see like all the actors in like other movies they've been in and such, and I didn't really see like anything big for the most part.
The only guy, his name is escaping me right this second in the movie and stuff, and maybe one of you will be able to pick up on it, but the only person that I knew of from this was the junkie character in it is in Letterkenny. He's one of the like goth kid or whatever in it, and he plays the junkie in that, but I can't remember his character name right off the top of my head.
I don't remember either. And then the other one that I knew from movies was the state trooper, and he's been in a ton of Hallmark movies, but that's the only thing he's been in.
So are you telling me that there's a chance that this could be shown on the Hallmark Channel this Christmas?
No, definitely not.
The guy you're referring to, Nick, is Evan Stern.
Yeah, there you go, James. Yep. Yeah, like he was like the first person that I saw in this movie. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh shit, because I think I just was introduced to Letterkenny. I saw him, and every single person in this movie acts their ass off. Like, even like if you had to say like, this was probably the worst person in the movie, it's still really good in comparison to like other people's performances in other movies.
Yeah, I thought the acting was pretty decent in this. Like, they definitely worked their butts off, like you said. So
I take that back. There is two people in this movie that I recognized. Ellie Wong, who plays Kim, the nurse in training. That's Knives Chow from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So that was dope. But
okay.
Anyway, okay, enough of that.
Throw our spoiler warning up.
Without further ado, we have ourselves a spoiler warning. If you have not seen The Void from 2016, I highly, 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 highly suggest that you see it. If not, you can stick around, listen to us chat about it. We're just going to kind of go through the movie. Before you leave us, though, do remember this is a movie club. So if you go to like the last 5 minutes of the episode, we will be telling you what we are going to watch in the coming week to get you up to speed for next week's episode. So if you want to keep up with us, come check us out at the last 5 minutes. If not, stick around, listen to us bitch, complain, love, whatever the words that we want to use, fill the adjective in there. And here we go. We are going to be talking about The Void.
So if you want to be a part of our club, you can find us at facebook.com/podofthedead or else, on Instagram at pod_of_the_dead, or on TikTok at podofthedead. If you want to email us any questions, any complaints, or movie recommendations, you can email us at podofthedead666@gmail.com.
Yes, which means we have reviews.
Oh,
next.
yes.
Because we keep forgetting them. It's like we're like where it's next. Oh, reviews.
It's right at,
that's what we're doing that
right after the spoiler warning, because the reviews are sometimes spoilerific. All right.
Yep.
Let's see here. Let's go with the 10 out of 10 review first.
All right.
Okay, Tasha.
This is the longest 10 out of 10 review I've ever seen.
Yeah, you both have some long ones today.
Yeah, so, I have a long one too.
Strap in. You get to hear me read for a while. I caught The Void on Netflix, and if you've attempted to watch any of the independent horror films on there, you know that the vast majority are slow, meandering, and a general waste of time. The Void succeeds where these films fail. It doesn't have a long, drawn-out prologue. It doesn't have a mopey, annoying characters that are a pain to follow. It successfully avoids all the trappings of the modern genre to bring us a film that is a real gem. One of The Void's biggest strengths is the pacing. Aside from a few quiet moments sprinkled throughout the character development, the film throws you into action and doesn't let up until the finale. It also continuously ramps up the stakes, constantly creating new and refreshing scenarios and set pieces. The characters and acting are all very good as well. There's no unjustified assholes or characters that exist solely to be annoying. I agree, and I love that about it. Everyone feels like a real person being thrown into this situation. So while you don't get a lot of backstory or character development, you immediately understand where everyone is coming from and are easily able to relate and empathize with all of them. The practical and special effects are a big selling point with this film. I don't want to give away all the fun, so I'll merely say that they are ambitious and flawlessly executed. I know there is CGI used to touch up some things, remove wires and puppeteers, etc., but when something horrific is happening on the screen, it's also happening right in front of the actors, and it adds so much of a believability and immersion in the film. The filmmaker's primary background is in makeup and special effects, working on everything from It, 2017, Crimson Peak, The Shape of Water, and the Hannibal TV series. They really utilize their skill set with this film. Because of its rural setting, isolated location, and lack of cell phones and computers, the film effectively creates a timeless quality, but is likely meant to be a period piece taking place in the late 1980s. The film draws a great deal of inspiration from the films of that era. Certain moments seem very much like a slasher film, while others delve into the pseudo-Lovecraftian cosmic horror of the movies like Hellraiser and The Thing. While some of these inspirations are very obvious and transparent, they're done very lovingly and always provide a fresh spin on what's being presented. In short, The Void is a great flick.
Okay.
So it's saying it's definitely inspired by Hellraiser and The Thing. No wonder Nick fucking loves this movie.
Yeah, I was in the.
If you're
go ahead, Tasha. Go.
Oh. If you're a horror fan, it's a must-see. And if you're not the biggest horror hound, it's artfully constructed, extremely engaging movie that is still well worth your time.
Okay.
And now I'm done.
It was, I would say I was into this movie, and within probably 10 minutes, I was like, this is why Nick likes this movie. This makes complete sense because of his love of the movies that he likes the most. So, okay. So that was a really good review. I thought it talked, and I never even thought about the movie in the sense of the time part. Like when we started it, I was like, is this based in this time? And Nick's like, yeah, I think it is. But then at the same time, if you look at the colors and the way the hospital looked and stuff, kind of looked older. So it was so well made in that sense that I didn't even notice whether or not we were living in the now or in the past.
Well, I mean,
I guess
it's one of those things where it's like the Midwest is 20 years behind the coast. So if it's on the coast, it was the 80s. But if it was in Ohio, it could have been today.
Yeah.
And if it was, since it's rural, then it takes it back even further. So it's
Correct.
already outdated.
Yeah. Because like I instantly, when you said that, I was like, well, they go to a phone. I was like, it's just that old reception phone that you see in every fucking movie. It's like really just kind of like, no cell phones or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing it's lacking is the cell phone aspect. But everything else, I mean, didn't seem that much different. I mean, actually, I was thinking when we were watching this whole movie is that when Noelle, my middle child, she had like an ear infection. We were on a vacation down in Hocking Hills when she was like 2 or 3 years old. I had to go to like a rural hospital down there, and I'd never been to one in like literally the middle of nowhere. And it looked almost identical to this. Like it was very like broken down, like it just very blank, like there was no livelihood. It was very like beige is what I would call it. Like it was
meant to be white, but they couldn't keep up on it, so the white became beige.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like the rooms were very similar to this. Like it felt very similar, and I was just like, this is creepy because this is what it reminds me of, and it portrays like rural, whatever state it's playing in. But yeah, so I have the 1 out of the 10. I have not read this review yet. Usually these are pretty fun and colorful, so I guess we will find out what we're gonna get ourselves into. Yes, honey.
Real quick before we get into that, one thing though, when they were talking about influences and stuff like that, this was an influence that I didn't pick up on until we watched the special features, but it makes 100% sense, and it's another reason why I fucking love this movie. Is they said a huge influence on them were the Silent Hill video games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was just like, I grew up on that is my jam through and through. And then they were like, oh yeah, no, when we were doing creatures design, it was like Lovecraft and Silent Hill. And I was like, yeah, you guys fucking nailed it. And it didn't just hit me. It was like when they were talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I remember spending my childhood watching you play that.
And never sleeping again.
Yeah, and us whispering to each other as you're going through it. We're just like, oh my, don't go down there. Don't.
No. Did you save? Oh God, we're not going to make it.
That's funny.
All right, what's the 10 out of 10 there, Steph?
1 out of 10.
Oh, we don't. It's all. I could have swore it was only 10 out of 10s for this movie.
Yep. Okay. If the producers and director of this movie are going to make a film this convoluted and non-cohesive out of some sort of desire to make a homage.
Homage.
Okay.
Homage.
Homage.
Yeah, but I think they spelled it wrong. I think, yeah. Then I get to write a consumer review that accurately describes this mess. And they used an exclamation point. They're serious.
Consumer review. They yelped.
Yeah.
They yelped this movie.
Yeah. This movie has so many See, more misspellings here.
Today on Steph's Grammar Nazi Corner.
Yeah, I mean, some of these I can't even understand how you have spell check, guys. Use it. Okay, this has so many parts of the other horror movies thrown together to constitute a separate movie that defies description due to its inconceivable plot lines.
It's okay.
Is it horror? Yes. It's a horror film because, okay, so if you're going to disparage a film, right?
Sidebar.
Use a fucking spell check.
They were too angry.
They didn't even use they can't even use it's right.
They were too angry. They were just like, and there's like red squiggly lines going underwards. They're like, there's no time. There's no time. Must insult film.
Yeah. Like it's a horror film because it's use an apostrophe, guys. Come on. Okay. Yes, it's a horror film because it tries to be something it's not.
Oh, hold on.
Again,
hold on.
Apostrophe, guys. Apostrophe.
So right up though, like, okay, so they're like, it doesn't make sense. It's weird and blah, blah, blah. It's a very specific style of horror that's existed for a long fucking time. Just because you're not familiar with like Lovecraft or even like a lot of Stephen King stuff, it's weird. It's not just cut and dry. It's not Michael Myers coming in through the back door.
And I think the cover even alludes to that. Like it's gonna be something like with monsters.
Yeah. So like, I guess seeing that cover and going like, I'm gonna check this out, and then it's fucking weird. When did you look at that and think like, this might be an Audrey Hepburn film. This might be Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like seriously, there's fucking tentacles coming out of a fucking portal and a dude like praying at it. But yeah, it's gonna be fucking weird.
You're in for a good time.
we have a lot to go on here, so we're gonna be going back and forth here a little bit. So
this is the episode.
Yeah. Is it horror? Yes, it's a horrible film because it tries to be something it's not.
Oh my god.
Is it science fiction? Yes, it's scientifically a bad movie. Motherfucker, use your goddamn.
I'm gonna check out the IP address of this person, and I'm going to go and
send them a dictionary.
Yeah, I'm gonna send them a dick.
Okay. The dialogue in parentheses script is a mess. Lots of superfluous use of yelling. See, they use a big word, but they can't spell it. Okay. of yelling and the F word. Okay, so just use the word fuck. To no practical benefit. There is gore, but that does not sustain a movie. This movie seems to have been made not for the enjoyment of the movie viewers, but to satisfy the movie maker's desires to be seen as in the same company as iconic horror storytellers from the past. Storytellers who are no longer relevant to consumer tastes.
Okay, hold on. So this person is this person is saying that since Lovecraft and the like are not in vogue anymore, that people don't care. And guess what? Whether Lovecraft has shitty fucking like racist views and stuff doesn't change the fact that his influence is paramount in the sense of like weird horror and stuff. And then to just be like, it's not even, people wouldn't even like this. People fucking love this stuff. This person just, I don't think likes actual horror. I think they like your tried and trues, and then somebody that was like, oh, you like horror films? Check this out. And it just was not their jam. And they probably like had their kids at the sitter for the night, and this was their one free night, and this is what they saw, and they are fucking burnt on this movie. This, I think the reviewer's name is Karen.
Something. I mean, I'm okay with 1-star reviews. Yeah. It's just this is just weird. And then they like don't know how to spell things correctly, and then they use the quotes around iconic horror storytellers as though they're like trying to be an asshole about it. So anyway,
this person's better than we, so we should listen.
Yes. I won't name these former icons of horror filmmaking because that is what the makers of The Void, in parentheses, want in comparison.
They are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not going to name drop anybody, but I don't know anybody.
To say it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no. The makers of The Void want comparison of their effort. The Void is aptly titled because there are several voids in the plot. Actually, I didn't really think that, and I'm a pretty stickler for that stuff. So any reasonable viewer is left wondering. I think this movie, the difference between this is that you either, when you watch it and you want so you want a Mike Flanagan film where they're handing you everything.
Oh, shots fired.
There's nothing wrong with that. That is just that he is the what did we say? He's the king of what was
foreshadowing.
Yes, that. So if you want a movie that's going to foreshadow you and basically hand you the plots when you're watching it, is you like Mike Flanagan movies, and they're well made.
Yeah,
They're
Tasha.
very well made. They are.
You fucking plebeian scum.
They're well made, but you're definitely getting something different, right? So you're getting that. This movie does not do that at all. It does not foreshadow. I think there's one instance I pulled out of something that was foreshadowing, but everything else is, they're not handing it to you on a platter. Right. A lot of it is you have to infer, or you have to pick up things like that they're not intentionally showing you, so you have to pay attention. So
and that's a hallmark of this style of horror. So like in previous films and stuff, we've talked about like where the violence is inferred, where it's off screen and stuff like that. These kind of things is like the explanation is inferred. It's very slice of life. This is happening right now. And then it's one of those things like, I love this movie, but if they were like, we're making The Void too, I'd be like, please don't do that, because the beauty of it is the fact that it's just a dreadful film and shit happens and there's no real explanation, and like all that's in the margins, and we're not supposed to see that. That's what makes it interesting to me.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, we got a paragraph and a half left. So any reasonable viewer is left wondering what the hell is that included for, or what just happened. There is absolutely no redeeming quality to this film. Given that, examine the hyperbole and scores used by the paid reviewers and production crew to celebrate this movie. You will see that this corruption that IMDb has fostered. So apparently they're thinking that the reviews on IMDb for this movie is padded.
I did see a lot of combative, like people being like, this movie's not that great. I wouldn't normally give it a 1 out of 10, but I'm going to because of this. And then the opposite of like, realistically, I would say this is a 7 out of 10, but I saw so many people giving it a 1 that I'm giving it a 10. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, people, just review a damn movie.
Just be honest. Huh. I know.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like,
arguing about
I love movies and stuff like that, but like to have to like help bolster the numbers by giving a false review is very weird to me. Like there were so many that I was just like, oh, this sounds good, and like half of it is just like, and the reason I did this, I was like, oh god damn it,
Well, I'm wondering if there was like some kind of group online, whether that's like a horror group on Facebook or something, and they got into like this big argument about this movie, and like it was a debate, and then half the people were like, we're gonna go review drop, and then I'm wondering if a lot of the reviews all happened around the same time, so you're running into people who are review bombing. We were just talking about this with books, so doing the same thing with this movie, and they're like, well, we're gonna go and talk shit about this movie because it's bullcrap, and then the people are like, well, I'm gonna go support it because you're being a dick, and so they're kind of having that back and forth. And so people who were going to vote normally like a 7 on this, like you were saying, they gave it a 10 just to offset the bullshit, trolls that live on the internet and like to have fun. So that's what I'm assuming might have happened if that's been like the commonality within the reviews.
And realistically, this comes with like the elitist, like the real elitist mindset. I was like this and I grew out of it eventually, thank God. Is that you think your opinion and your taste matters, and it doesn't at all. It all comes down to the fact of like, are you having fun with it, and you get to introduce other people to the thing? That's cool, right? I'm not here to shit on anybody's taste. I will give everything a perfect shot, even if I have preconceived notions of it. Now, to be like, you're an idiot because you like this. No, but I have had different experiences in my life and I have a different taste and all this stuff. It doesn't mean that, your taste is invalid or anything like that. The whole idea of being like a true horror fan, blah, blah, blah. Now, I will say, like, going back to like our Exorcist and stuff like that, with the whole idea of like, you're like, it's one of those things like, you haven't seen it, really? That's surprising. It's not the fact of like, you haven't seen it, my God. It's just one of those things. It's so prevalent, it's been around and everything.
They didn't want to waste their time.
That's fine, and that's a 100% fair argument. But the inverse is also a completely fair argument, where it's some people are just like, it is Catholic fear personified. that and two men getting married or something. I don't know. Like those are their nightmares to life. No, we're pro all that. I don't want that to come across in a bad way. Like that's not the thing. I'm just saying religious people see the exit. But anyway, before I go on some sort of fucking getting canceled by the religious right tangent, which if so, I didn't want you here anyway, we will go into our, I'm just going to refer to it as relaxed fit, Void.
Moving on.
The main reason for this was I started writing it and I just found myself like just watching it again. And I was like, I'm not going to stop this. I'm just going to let it wash over me. Oh, absolutely. So the film starts
just experience
and you see
it.
a triangle painted on a door and screaming in a house. And a couple people come barreling out of this house with two other people shortly in tow. Man runs off into a field. Girl starts running. Rifle blast to the back, which drops her. And we get to see this later to be found out father and son combo. The father tells him to douse the girl in gas, and he takes his cigarette and sets her ablaze.
Yep, that's what happens.
I was sucked in at that point. That is not how I expected this to start. That's not what I expected anything to be like. That was a phenomenal. I
agree. I think that I am a big fan of when we're watching movies and they have, Nick calls them the cold opens, where they're just thrusting you into this world. And whether that's for shock and awe or they're giving you some kind of plot point, Scream does this extremely well as well. And they did that in this movie. And I really loved the beginning of this. And we didn't know this until we watched the added on features, was the house that they're in. There is a dead body in the house. It is supposed to be like an old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And they put newspapers on the windows to make this house look older than what it is, which I think it does successfully. Yeah,
because it's actually a really nice house, they said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the house that they originally had for this was one of the houses that fell through. So it fell through and they're like, fuck, like it was just this dilapidated farmhouse. And this house, they're like, yeah, you can totally do it. And one of their friends that were on, they're just like, it's the easiest way to make a house look disheveled. Newspapers on the window, and it fucking works.
It does. Yeah. They also weren't supposed to be filming this movie this late in the year. I think we're going to be filming this in the summer, ended up, because this is filmed in Canada, then they got screwed out of it. So this is actually the winter they're filming it, but they got lucky and there wasn't snow and stuff. So it kind of can give that illusion of fall-esque time. So I liked that. But yeah, it was... I really love this opening. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah,
they said every other year at this time of the year, it was brutal cold and snow. So they just kind of lucked out because they're like, well, I guess our summer movie's a winter movie. And they're like, I guess it's, once they got into it, they're like, well, actually, it's kind of a fall movie now.
Okay. And then we fast forward to a guy sitting on the side of a road that's a police officer in his squad car, which originally I didn't know if this guy was actually legitimately a police officer in a squad car. I didn't know if somebody had just stolen a car. I didn't know because of the time, the way that the police car looked, it is more period piece now that you kind of think about it.
Definitely. It's
and he's talking to a lady. Yeah. And he's talking to a dispatcher, I'm assuming a woman on his CB, just talking about, or the radio, about just kind of hanging out, sitting on the side of a road in the middle of the country.
He's sleeping, and she asks,
after he was awakened,
you awake over there, Dan? He's like, I'm in the middle of a high-speed chase. And this character, it's Daniel Carter. He's our policeman through the movie. He's played by Aaron Poole. And what I found really cool about this is when we were watching the special features on this and everything, they were saying this guy was straight up method in this. So a method actor is someone that does not leave character and stuff like that. So they were saying they'd be like, all right, we're going to be shooting this scene in about a minute or two, get ready. And he would because he's supposed to just be really upset at something. He's just beating the fuck out of chairs, just throwing them around, and they're like, all right, action, and they just like comes barreling through, and they were like, that set the tone for everybody else. It like just made this atmosphere that everyone was like full on, like, we're gonna make this fucking movie the best we can.
Yeah, he does a good job. I mean, his acting skills in this movie, he's not my favorite person in this movie, but I find him oddly endearing. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's just cops and movies that are like in this, like, because Dewey was like that and I liked him. And like there's something about, I don't know.
I don't know. We got a bootlicker on our hands.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Give me that thin blue line.
Yeah.
We all know that your favorite character in this movie is Granddad.
I really did like him too. Yeah, he's really endearing too. I liked most of the characters in this movie. I thought they were really good.
I'm 90% sure Granddad's not even an actor.
Yeah.
I think that's just an old guy that showed up on set. He's just
Probably.
He's like,
Yeah.
oh, God damn it.
They just needed an extra person.
Very like that. But so he's sitting there talking to the dispatch, and this guy comes running out of the woods and collapses on the road. Funny story about this road. They had a nice road set up. This is actually just the track around the school that they used for the hospital is actually an old high school that's no longer used, and this is the track. And they were like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and they were like, you know what, no one's gonna notice, just go. No, not until they said that. I was like, that's a fucking track, and they just kept showing images of the car there. I was like, oh yeah, there's no road lines or anything, but like we grew up in like rural areas and stuff, so it's like that just looks like a fucking back road to me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a county road. No one ever goes down it.
Yep. So he gathers up the guy, and he sees that he's beat the fuck up, and this is Evan Stern from Letterkenny, playing James, and he's busted up over the forehead. This is the guy that was running from the house at the cold opening. He's the one that got away from the two.
It took me a bit to realize that.
Me too.
I was going to say, I don't think I realized it the first time I watched this movie, but yeah, like upon subsequent, like once you find out what he's talking about and everything, you're like, oh, that's that guy.
Yep. And they take him to the hospital. He takes him to the hospital, and he has to like take him inside, and they put him on a stretcher. Well, so like nobody comes out to help him or anything when he pulls up.
Well, and he doesn't want to go to this hospital. He wants to go to another hospital, and dispatch is like, no, Marsh County Hospital is the closest one. He's like, what about that one? He's like, that's another 20 minutes away. Like, you need to get this guy somewhere quick. So you can already see that he's really reluctant to go to this hospital. You don't know why, but you later find out why.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get him there, and like you were saying, load up everybody, blah blah blah, and you start getting this weird tension between him and this nurse. That is later. It doesn't go too far into it. We don't know if they were married or are. They were.
It's his wife.
It is his wife.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're in the middle of a divorce or a separation. Like, they're not together. We know that, but she legitimately in the movie a couple times it's noted that it's his wife.
Okay. And I don't necessarily want to give anything away yet about their relationship and stuff, because I think that'll come up better later on.
Yes.
But so they're kind of, doing the back and forth and everything, but there's just this weird tension. Like, they do a really good job of not holding on shots too long, but just long enough to see like some side eye from them and everything. And then it cuts to the nurse in training that does not give a fuck. So I believe it's Nurse Beverly, which we will later see some more of.
Well, there's Beverly and then there's Kim.
Yes.
So we see is Beverly this part and then Kim's later.
Well, Beverly is the one complaining to Kim that, she could start boxing up some things.
Oh, yeah, because the hospital's moving.
Yep, the hospital's moving because a large wing of this hospital has caught fire and burnt down.
The basement.
Yep. Well, it's supposedly an entire wing of the hospital, I think they said.
It's the basement.
It's just the basement?
It's the basement.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew the basement was involved in it. I'm just saying, like...
I think it was that, but that is what happened.
Oh, okay.
From later in the film, it talks about how something got damaged and they needed to move, and it's the entire basement, an entire floor caught on fire, and now they have to move into something else because of that.
Yeah, but Beverly, played by Stephanie Belding, is basically complaining to Kim, who's played by Ellie Wong, as I previously said, from she played Knives Chow in Scott Pilgrim. So Kim is just not about it this whole movie. Like, she's the nurse in training, and it is totally just,
she's the worst.
Yeah, she's just like, it comes off as like this 18-year-old, just like, I'm just doing this over the summer kind of vibe and whatever. And she does it perfectly. Like, it,
Yeah,
it doesn't.
I don't like her.
No, I didn't either. She was annoying.
She's my least favorite character. So if that's what they were going for, annoying, they hit it on the head.
So you must love the ending of this film then. But let's see here. The hospital's on fire, and the forest guy, what's his
forest guy?
Yeah,
James.
James. Everything in notes. I don't rewrite my notes. So James ends up getting sedated because this dude is freaking the fuck out, and it's at this time that our main doctor, who is Dr. Richard Powell, played by Kenneth Welsh. This is my favorite character in the movie. Shocker.
Really?
This dude has
Yeah.
the best voice. That's the thing that makes him my favorite.
Okay. He does have like a spooky horror movie voice.
Yes, he's got a voice like this.
Like,
yes.
he's meant to play this part. I'll give you that.
Yep. So
But his acting's not the greatest.
Oh, what?
No.
I didn't. He's probably in terms of like weakest character in terms of like the way they act. I would say he's probably it.
I don't believe you. But he's talking about how he's talking to Daniel about Allison is just coming to terms with some things because it's really hard to rebound after the loss of a child, and because like I said, Dan and Allison's his wife that we spoke about. They kind of are having this little back and forth a little bit, and that's when the doctor kind of intervenes. It's like, you just got to give her some time. But then we cut back and forth and stuff. We see Kim dealing with a patient, and she's just being shitty, showing him medical textbooks of like, oh, this is what this looks like. It's just like a ripped open arm and everything. So it's just kind of like this slice of life thing, Everybody's kind of, what's this?
And then we also have Grandpa and a pregnant teenager in the waiting room waiting to be seen. So we've got a patient here who comes in from the woods, don't know what's wrong with them, and they sedate him. And then we got this, we're presumably in labor at this point, teenager with her grandfather, which is an interesting duo, sitting in this like old school looking waiting room, and they're waiting to be seen. There's only one doctor on staff. It sounds like there's 3 nurses, and that's all you're kind of left with, because this is nighttime. We're also rural. We're also talking about like the time period, I guess. So, and they're also like moving, so we don't know like how many people might have normally been staffed here, if they're staffed at another location. So we don't know anything about any of this. So it was Grandpa and teen. I don't even know what the teen's name is.
I think her name's Maggie.
Okay.
Yeah, we got Maggie,
Yes.
and I believe it is. I'm guessing. I'm not gonna dig into it, but yeah, Maggie, I do know is the girl's name. But
they did a really good job of introducing like all of the characters, like pretty quickly and seamlessly, and then you just realize how eerily empty the place is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they all like kind of, not like that they're tried and true like cookie cutter, but it's like archetypes. Like you've got the old man and the granddaughter, and the pregnant lady, which is the granddaughter, and you've got the married couple that's spatting, and you've got the young like upstart nurse. You've got like all these little things, and so we're watching all this kind of stuff happening, and Daniel's kind of walking around and everything, and he goes to walk into a patient's room because I believe he might hear something, or he's looking for somebody. He might be looking for his wife, and he walks in, and you just see Beverly's back as she's standing over a patient's bed. Everything seems super chill right now.
Right.
This was super weird. Like, I did not expect this at all. Like, you just see her standing there and you're like, oh, she's just tending to this patient that's in the hospital. And he's like the only person that's actually kind of there besides them and the other guy they're working on. And my notes say, what the fuck?
Yeah, so the camera's behind her and everything, and then the next camera is basically facing her, but down at bed level, and you're seeing her pull a scalpel out of the eye of the patient here, and unnamed patient, he has a name, I don't care, is DOA, and Beverly turns around, and she has cut her face off and is talking about like how beautiful it is and like this very like elated like and then she begins to come at Officer Daniel with her scalpel, and while he's telling her to stop it, Beverly, stop, and like she like gets ready to lunge, and then you just hear pop and he just shoots her in the head.
Yeah, and she says, this isn't my face, and she's like, and it's weird, she's like pulling pieces of it off, and it was just very strange.
But yeah, very uncomfortable. Like a lot of that.
Yes,
very Cronenberg. Like if you've ever seen The Fly or anything like that, where it's this peeling flesh off to like you're molting almost, like something coming out of a cocoon or a shell. It definitely has that feeling.
It's cool how you just get thrown into that side. So we got a cold opening, and then there's this big burst of crazy right there. I think that's a cool way of doing it. Instead of kind of like teetering on it, it just right in your face.
Yeah.
Another giant left turn.
Yeah, it definitely has this like, don't worry, you'll catch up kind of feel to it.
Right.
It doesn't ease.
Well, yeah, and you don't know what this is. Like, you don't know why she's like this. And part of me, this is how I started in the movie. I thought something was inside of this guy that came into the hospital. I thought that because he bled on the cop, and the cop made a point to say, he fucking bled on me. I thought that was foreshadowing. So that I'm thinking, okay, maybe we have something viral going through, because I don't know anything about this movie at this point. And so I was thinking, okay, maybe she went to go help this guy, got his blood on her. Now she's crazy. We don't know what's going on. So at this point, I still don't know. And then Mr. Daniel Cop, at this point, after he kills her, he's kind of like, obviously he's probably not done anything like this before. So he's kind of having a panic attack, and he goes into the bathroom, and then he has like this weird, this is another thing. I was like, well, he got bled on. So did this kind of play into that? And it cuts to this weird like world with clouds and rocks and like a weird alien looking thing. And I was like it wasn't alien looking thing. It looked like in the sky there was like a shadow of what could have been like an alien spaceship or something. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, are we in another dimension now? Like, I did not know. And I think that's probably where the person was bitching about like not knowing about this movie. But you just got to pay attention. It makes complete sense.
By the end of the film, it's given way. And it even says stuff about like, I know that you've seen this stuff. So,
yeah. And then it's just weird. And then he comes up and he's on the ground. Yeah.
The dark, ominous stuff, like the very dark atmospheric stuff, all the soundtrack throughout there is by this composer, producer that goes by Lustmord. And I've listened to his stuff before. Like, it's kind of like what I use. It's so weird. That's kind of stuff I use to like deactivate my brain and just zen out, is like dark ambient music where it's just like low rumbly kind of stuff. And it just lets me kind of like release a bit. So I didn't realize it until this last time we were watching the credits and stuff. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that Lustmord did some stuff in this. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like the scoring for all of this movie. That was definitely something I picked up really early on.
Yeah, it's not too upfront, and it's not like re or anything like that. It's just very dark, very atmospheric. Not like The Witch, where it's like, you know, like discordant, like kind of stuff. It's just rumbly and just very windswept desolation kind of stuff, and maybe a musical stab here and there, just like but that's about it. But when he wakes up on the bathroom, the doctor and his wife are basically telling him, you might have had a seizure, maybe you need to lay down. And he's like, nope, I just got to keep on going on. That's what men do. And as he comes out, the state trooper has entered the chat. And I've seen this movie multiple times. I always forget that this motherfucker's in this movie because he is not long for this earth.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like abrupt. Like, it's like he just randomly shows up. Again, part of me is like, is this a miss because there's an infection? Is there a cult? Is there these things? Like, what's going on? And maybe he's part of whatever this is, because he disarms our cop immediately.
He says that he's there because there was a bloodbath about 20 miles north of this place. And he thinks that the person that he brought in, because he radioed it in and everything. Yeah. He's coming to follow up on that, basically going like, and I think this guy might be involved with it. So as abrupt as it does seem and everything, he, in the world of like how, information travels for cops and everything like that, he basically went to the farmhouse. There's this bloodbath and everything because there's a burning body out there. Somebody would have called that in. Mm-hmm. So he goes, sees this shit, then hears that like another cop picked up this guy and took him to the hospital. So now he's there.
Yeah, but you're assuming that. I noticed all that.
I thought he was there because
they had
the cop
coffee.
The cop shot somebody.
Oh.
So they had to call that in, and then that's why the sheriff took his gun, because like, hey, you're under investigation now for this shooting.
They took his gun because anytime that a cop discharges their weapon, it has to be removed from them. But then also later on, when he's talking to the state trooper and stuff, he basically tells him, is like, can I call it in? Like, he's basically saying like, I did it, but like, can I call it in to show like I'm still a hard ass and can weather the storm?
I thought that was bad writing. I didn't like that.
I think it really goes into like this is one of the things that they kind of touch on, but it doesn't get expanded upon and stuff, is that his father must have been like a really good cop or something. Mm-hmm. And the state trooper knew his dad, the doctor knew his dad. And you kind of get these things said to him, specifically from like the state trooper, is almost like, my God, what would your dad think? What would your dad think of you if he knew that this was going on? So you kind of get that stuff, but they don't really expand upon it, other than I think it's almost like Daniel is viewed as a failure from about everybody that's in contact with him, whether it's his wife, the doctor, everybody. So he's kind of got this little man syndrome going on a little bit.
Yeah. And I did pick up on why the state trooper was there, because he does explain it. But my thing was, is like, is he lying? Is there another motive behind this? Like, I didn't know. And I agree with Tasha. Like, I don't like that he had to go call it in, but it makes sense for the movie only because it just shows that the phone doesn't work. So it's their way of kind of explaining to us that they can't call for help at this point. They're kind of in their own island, I guess, in a weird way, where they're stuck with whatever there is. And then that's what makes him have to go out to his vehicle to check to see if he can use the radio out there to call it in. And that's kind of when we get our first, I guess, excitement with the white robed man with the weird triangle on his forehead.
Yep, they're these cultists that basically the symbology. That's the science of symbols. I'm not a brain researcher, guys. Please stop.
We already discussed that.
I cannot answer any more emails about me being a brain researcher. Okay, I'm not. I had my license taken away.
Yeah.
But something that I didn't realize until right now, when he goes to check the phone and stuff, the radio's playing and it's just pure static. So that's twofold. You're finding out that this place is cut off from everywhere, which is very Lovecraftian, very Silent Hill. Silent Hill is this pocket dimension thing, and the radios, when bad things are around, just play static. And I didn't even realize it until right now. And I was like, oh yeah, that's totally Silent Hill.
Okay.
But yeah, he goes out there, can't reach dispatch, and Triangle Man is in the distance. Something that was really cool about that is anytime that you see these cultists out there, they had to actually do composite shots and like basically everything that they tried to shoot on set, it was like windy or raining and all this stuff, and it just looked like pure garbage. They even show like a side by side of like, this is what it looked like when we were shooting it, and then they just took some stuff in front of a green screen of like a guy standing there and just cut and pasted him in to just fill it out to get that very stark, perfectly like silhouetted stance and everything. So that's,
it looks like they're just plopped in there.
Yeah. And that's one of the very few CG things that they ended up doing. Like most of the CG that they did in this movie was just to clean up stuff, remove like signs that said like stores or things like that. Basically, that was what most of the CG was for. Then all of the creature effects in this, all of the violence and stuff, that's all in camera.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then there's this loud sound as a man comes at him with the knife, which is the guy with the triangle on his forehead.
More Silent Hill.
And he gets him in the chest. Now this part I did not expect, because I was like, oh no, he's just gonna pretend, and it's nope, he fucking gets him in the chest. Like I was like, dude, you just fucking sunk your knife into his chest. Like that happened.
It's not a fast stab. It is a battle, and that blade is slowly penetrating him, and the only way he's able to get him off of him is by rolling him off. He runs in, and Daniel is like beginning to bleed out.
Yeah, and then more of the I put the guys in the white show up, and I'm like, is this aliens? Like at this point, I'm like, I don't know anything about this movie, so I'm like, is this aliens? The only thing I found weird that I don't quite understand, and now this makes sense because maybe we are now suddenly in our own dimension, I guess, is that the loud sounds. We hear that a few times in this movie, and it's like this weird like horn or something like that. It kind of sounds like something you would hear from like a spaceship or something along those lines. You don't really know. They don't really talk about that much. So that was the only thing I found. I didn't know if it was coming from the robed men, which I assumed wasn't, because it just seemed out of character. So I don't know where that came from, but I thought that was very abrupt and
I think
weird.
that's more of that Silent Hill showing through some chocolate in my peanut butter there, because in Silent Hill, when we go from the natural world to the hell world and stuff in those games and stuff, it's an air raid siren. It's like that tornado siren, just burn.
Oh, okay.
And they do mention one of the characters mentions that when you hear that sound, that's what summons them.
Yeah, there's something going on. It's calling them here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So either we're like flipping into an alternate dimension, or you're already in it, and that just brings them to that spot for some reason.
And that stuff, oh my God. Anytime you start talking about these like pocket dimension horror stuff, I'm just like all sorts of giddy, because I'm like, I'm not going to know what the fuck's going on, and I'm going to see some cool shit. That's why I love like movies like Mandy, Color Out of Space, like, which are newer films also. Like if you had to take like 3 movies that Nick likes of the last 10 years, like puts them on high pedestals, you got The Void, you got Mandy, and you got Color Out of Space. Why? Because they're just weird as fuck, crazy shit going on, and they don't explain a lot.
Yeah, but they still like, this movie still makes sense though. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like you don't have to tell me everything, and I still got it. So like there are like the sounds. Yeah, you kind of have to dissect that a little bit, but I think that it kind of you just have to pay attention throughout the movie, I think, and it's not like deep paying attention. It's just enough to, it's entertaining enough. And then
for someone who's not paying attention to the movie super close, like I didn't notice that air raid sound. I didn't know that the characters heard it too until it was brought up when someone mentioned, and that's the only reason I can really remember why those noises are important, was because that's when I tuned into it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, so like Daniel comes in, collapses, and the doctor and his wife and the doctor start tending to him as he basically starts like fading out. They're having like Kim hold pressure on the wound and stuff. They're gonna
And this is the scene where I thought the doctor didn't have good acting, because he was like, we have to stop the bleeding. Like that's like the writing was just lacking, and he was given a good college try. But just
everybody else just looks at him and is like, we didn't figure that out, doctor. We must keep the blood on the wound. We must keep the blood on the inside of the body.
Right. So like, you couldn't do any better on the writing for this guy. Like,
see, my reasoning though for liking him is not when he's in doctor form. It's when he comes into full form. This is why I like him. But when this is going, we get a cut to little nurse Beverly that's been shot in the head, and we see what I can only describe as spider legs whipping out of her eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Just
so gross,
so wet, and just like flipping around. I'm there for it.
It was a great impersonation, and that was disgusting. Hated that.
It's the same kind of sound effect that you hear like in The Thing. Whenever there's like the tentacly kind of stuff, it's this very wet whipping sound.
Yep.
And that's what it has, like a rattlesnake sound to it almost.
Kind of, yeah.
And the whole of the monster was terrifying, but the grossest part was that out of the mouth, out of everything.
Just tentacles just going like this. Just, those of you just listening to the podcast, like it just so very, very Dr. Zoidberg. But
yeah, this is the part of the movie that I was like, this is why Nick made us watch this movie immediately, because this is your first major creature you get to see. There's a lot of them in this film, and they're all different, and I like that about this. It's not repetitive in any facet, and it's all interesting in that way. So this part, that was immediate. I was like, The Thing, like immediately. That's what this reminded me of. So.
Yep.
And I think around this part, Drew had even mentioned, he was like, this looks like a video game. There's something video game about it.
Yeah.
So him not knowing that there was any connection to Silent Hill, it still transfers.
Oh, yeah. See, I really think that I just need to hang up my Silent Hill boots, because I didn't catch that until this was probably like the 7th or 8th time I've watched this. And it took the special features for him to be like, hey, Silent Hill.
Spell it out for you.
I'm just like, because I saw all the other stuff, like all the other things, Assault on Precinct 13, The Thing, like all these other things that were film, and then I just didn't they could have been influenced by other things. I'm like, no, that's not possible. These people only watched movies.
Yeah.
But when Daniel starts passing out, we get another shot of this dark, ominous visuals, more of the rumbling, seeing these, as they called it, just stock footage of clouds. Like they just darken them up. They're just like, oh, there's that stock footage of clouds that we have. So they're just slap. To me,
it works.
I know. I look at it and I'm just like, that's fucking eerie. And they're like, yeah, no, that was just free.
And you can definitely tell it's pared down, but there's like this art house quality to it, so it fits.
And it really builds, because like what you're kind of getting in these is you're getting what's beyond the void, essentially, is what I think you're supposed to be seeing. And they definitely, with the soundscape that they put to it, like the scoring and everything, and all that, like you're just really getting this like dark, desolate, windswept area. Here, hold on. What's up, babe?
There's a giant spider on our floor.
Oh, we have a breach. We have a spider.
I can't get him, but he's huge, and I don't want him breathing in our bed.
So, too late. He already has.
Beverly has entered the chat.
Yeah,
you talking about me?
It's coming to the spider.
So the spider from Beverly's face has.
Oh my god! It's huge. It's black, and I can't find it.
It's huge. It's
lives
black.
There now.
That's just the tagline for whatever this is. You know, the void. It's huge. It's black, and I can't find it.
See, my tagline I wrote down actually was a cult, but with monsters.
Okay, if it comes back, I'm killing that bastard. It was like creepy crawling across our floor, and I was like, is that what I think it is? And sure enough, it is. And it climbed underneath our fireplace area over here, and it's really, really big. So
I think I saw him earlier and tried to kill him, and then he just got away, and I was like, that's future next problem. Well, I guess not. I think it's current Steph's problem.
Yeah, I grabbed my shoe and I brought it over there. Like, let's come hang out and let me kill your ass. And then he's like, no, I'm just gonna hide from you. So, I guess that's what we're doing right now. But yeah. Oh, okay. Now I'm just gonna keep staring over there, waiting for this bastard to come back out. Sorry, guys. Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Here, let's all take a breather for a sec. Get your composure.
I'm fine. I'm not scared of spiders. I just don't want them living in our basement.
That's where spiders live, babe.
But not in our house. Like our house. That's not how this works.
They can live in other houses, just not ours. Okay.
Yeah, like I had one living on my knee one day, and I
It
was
was
like,
just living there. It lived there, like it was getting mail sent to your knee.
well, kind of, because I picked up my blanket to sit in my little office room down here, and it was. I didn't notice it at first, and had been sitting on my knee for probably some time, and it was just literally like we were like having a staring contest, and I was like, "I'm sorry, my friend, but you don't belong in our basement." So my option is I can attempt to maybe catch you and take you upstairs and take you outside, or I can end your life down here. And I didn't feel really bad because they ended his life. Yeah, it was kind of not nice. So this motherfucker, though, he's big and black, and he's scary looking.
He's ready to tussle.
If it's the one I saw earlier, I looked it up, and I think it might have been a wolf spider.
No, we don't have wolf spiders in our basement.
They are straight up around here, and
we have them in the Midwest, though.
Yeah, like
I know
they're here, and they don't care. All right,
I think we'll be fine. So
anyway, back to our scheduled programming. Instead of our interlude of Steph versus Giant Spider to the Electric Boogaloo.
I know. I'm looking for him. Okay.
If Steph doesn't say anything for the rest of the episode, it's because she's literally just staring over her mic. Like, where are you? I know you're here.
I'm hunting. It's okay. Okay.
So it's at this time that they get Dan back onto his feet, and they're some of the people are looking out, and they see that the Triangle Men, the cult, have the hospital surrounded, and it's at this point that Bev comes bursting out of the patient's room, and she has become a full-on Lovecraftian Cronenberg monster, just a lump of pulsing flesh and gloop and tentacles,
body parts.
It just.
Oh, well, you're missing a little part before this.
Okay.
Because the hunter guys, the hunter guy that killed the woman and with the son at the house, they showed up before this. So they showed up. They're standing in the hospital, and they basically broke in, getting away from these cult people, and they came in and they're looking for that guy that they have now sedated in a room. And then that's when so then that's when it happens, and they go, and I don't know if they're going to look for the dude, or I can't remember what happens.
Oh, they're looking to fuck up Letterkenny hard.
I was too distracted at this point because I had no idea how those guys got into the hospital.
They say that they had to fight their way through. Later on, they said, like, when they're looking to go out, it's like, we had to fight our way in here. So they were straight up blasting their way in, it seems like.
Yeah, so they were, and so then they're there, and then the state highway patrolmen and them, they go to get the crazy alien lady. They try to fuck her up.
So, well, no, it's not the Stady. The Stady gets dealt with a little bit later, I believe, by Bev. But what I've got is that the guys from the beginning have shown up at the hospital, and I don't think she bursts out yet. I think that's the thing. I think she shows up and then comes up against the glass of the door. She hasn't burst through. Then the gun guys from the beginning show up, and then the tweaker, the guy from Letterkenny, jumps up and grabs the pregnant girl at knife point, and they're basically trying to. The hunter guys, the father-son characters from the beginning, are wanting him, and he's like, I'm not fucking going. He's holding her at knife point. The doctor is like, just chill out, just whatever. We're not going to let anything bad happen to you. And Letterkenny just straight up stabs him in the throat.
Yeah, he does.
And so he starts falling to the ground. So that's happening, and the Stady is like kind of like pointing a gun here, but pointing a gun there, but pointing a gun here. And it's at this time that some tentacles whip out and pull him out the door, and the Bev monster pulls him away, and you hear him just like, ah! And that's the point where father and son see the monstrosity that is the pulsating mass of flesh, goo, blood, everything, and I've got father and son versus Bev, fight. And the thing that's super funny about this is that there's one guy in that suit, and it's like this huge foam suit and everything, all this like weight just laying on him. And then they gave the father son, the actors, they just gave them like foam axes, and they're just like, just beat the hell out of him. So they're just like just beating the ever living shit out of this thing.
Well, and they do a good job, like in the way that it's filmed, and then they shoot it, they hit it with an axe, and I was like, to no avail, injure it, ? Because I didn't know if this was like the mother. That's why I was wondering, like, if this was just like something that the cultists were coming to like save or be a part of. Like, I did not know anything. Like, so I was like, maybe that's what's going on. I had no idea, and I wrote down my notes on that. So yeah, these guys, realistically, the father and then the silent son is what I call him because he doesn't speak. They're pretty big badasses in this film.
Yeah, from the get-go, I remember you were just like, I do not like the father, like, because he is like straight up asshole. And I think for any of the characters of this movie, I think he has the best character arc.
He does. And he also has the best acting, I think, because like he plays an asshole really well.
And he's from like New Zealand or something. Like when he was speaking like in the special features and stuff, I was just like, what the hell? Like he's got like that Kiwi accent. I was like, what the hell? I did not expect that. But it's at this point that the dad is saying that he wants him. He's talking about Letterkenny. He's just like, I fucking want him. And unless you want what has happened previously to happen here, you're going to give him to me. And like his intensity with I'm just going to keep calling him Letterkenny. The father's intensity. Yeah. James, the father's intensity with James it's so uncomfortable. Like the levels that this guy is about to go to get him and get whatever information he can get out of him is insane, because we later see a very, very intense scene with a hammer later on but yeah. And I like this because now they're kind of after they've done their fighting and they've done all of this, they're all kind of going to the office and they're all going to take a breath, and then they're kind of trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Like, what are they going to do? And this is, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be Bev or if this is supposed to be the state trooper, but you get a little funeral pyre on a gurney getting pushed out the door. And just,
I think it's the alien. I think they took Bev. I think that
you think it's Bev or the state trooper?
Bev.
I think Bev ate the state trooper, and so it's both of them collectively all in one big form that they light on fire and shove it outside, so they know it can't come back to life or deal. They don't want to deal with it. So
that's the only
what I'm assuming.
That's the only scene in the movie that actually makes me laugh, because it's just such a cold shot of this gurney on fire rolling out into the parking lot and just falls over. I'm just like,
which I think harkens back to the beginning too in some way.
Yeah, they kind of let you know how
something's going on.
Yeah, and
those guys are linked to that house, and they're possibly good, not horrible. At least that's where my mind was at this point.
Yes.
So this is the point where the father tells, I believe it's Officer Diane, that there is something calling them all here. So that's where we're finally kind of filled in with that trumpeting horn, whatever sound is definitely audible, and it does seem to be calling them there. And while we're in this extra, maybe it's like a break room or something like that, we're seeing that Maggie, the pregnant girl, is having some problems. So,
and they're arguing on how they're going to handle her, considering we've got cultists outside, we've got some weird shit going on inside the hospital, and they're just trying to figure out, like, how are we going to accomplish all of this without splitting up completely? We have no the dad and the son have a gun, but they have no actual ammunition anymore. So what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to do this?
I have a big problem with this scene because they're in a hospital. And Kim is like, I don't know what I was supposed to do with her. And she didn't think to put her in a hospital bed. Like, do it in there instead of in the office.
True.
Like, you have all of these options. So I thought that was really...
Maybe the break
fixated
room,
on that for a while.
Maybe the break room area that they're in locks, and maybe the patient rooms don't lock. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Like, it's been a while.
That was the one part. Like, I'm really fine with like not thinking logically when I'm watching movies, but that stuck out so badly.
Now, I've never thought about that, but yeah, that does
really.
It does kind of like raise a flag of like, yeah, like why didn't they go to like a different, like a patient room or something to try and take care of her?
I mean, I actually kind of look at it as like, yeah, they probably would have had more accessibility to things, because you would think that they'd have some type of like, the thing that got me with all of that was like, how hard is it to go to a room and get like a Doppler and check the baby's heart rate and do like all those things?
Right.
They do none of that in this movie, and I felt like
maybe
that
it was all packaged
lacking.
up. Maybe it was all packaged up.
Yeah, but I would all of it like that's they shouldn't be treating
kind
patients.
of go down a rabbit hole of like, why is she here? But then we figure out why she's here later on, and blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, and that was the only part that I had. Like, I didn't mind them being in that room. Like, that was fine. I just don't like the fact they didn't have any help.
Well, they also do state Allison's like, I think, telling Dan like, you know, we don't have the things to do this here, which is 100% true. Like, there are certain hospitals that are good at like the small little things, a break and all this stuff. But she's talking about like, I can't.
C-section.
I can't promise a C-section would work. It's like we don't have the stuff to do that here.
Well, she was talking about she needed to go to get supplies in order to be able to do that stuff, and that's what they were trying. He's like, we're not leaving here until we can get like we need some kind of weapons, and that's where basically he wanted her to stay put while he was going to go get weapons.
And what do we know about women? They ain't going to be listening.
Yeah, basically. Wait, no! Oh God, he found the spider. Hold on. Don't eat him! Don't eat him! Don't eat him! Don't eat him! You fucking eat that spider!
Hell yeah!
I think he ate the spider.
I think Wade ate the spider.
Did he run away from you?
I'm gonna put some really good music under this part. Dun, dun.
Did you eat it? I'm not touching your mouth. I'm not checking for 8 legs in your mouth. That's nasty. You get it?
The best part is I get to hear this in stereo. Like, I'm at a ball diamond, so like I hear her, but then I hear her in my headphones like a second later.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. All I know is our dog was literally like 3 seconds ago. He sees something, races across the floor, and starts attacking it.
Good job, boy.
So I don't know if he actually accomplished anything. Did you eat a spider?
That's good. High in protein.
No, it's not.
High in protein.
What if it's poisonous?
That's not how spider venom works.
I don't know. I know
Nick knows about spider venom.
Well, no, like they say, like, you know, like so many spiders crawl down your mouth. Like,
Hush.
Oh, you don't want to hear about that?
No,
okay.
I don't. I know the whole statistic thing. Don't talk about it.
I wish ice cream sandwiches would crawl into my mouth while I'm
Can you go
sleeping.
see Dad and have him check your mouth?
Don't send the spider mouth to me.
Can I see your mouth? Can I check it? Can I see it? Do you eat a spider?
Do you think Wade's gonna become a superhero now?
I don't.
Spider dog.
Don't know.
Dog.
He's gonna shoot spider webs out his butthole.
Okay. That was so crazy. He literally just was like laying, sleeping. All of a sudden he looks over and he just like races to the by the stairs, which is right next to the fireplace, and he starts pouncing on this thing and like smacking it with his flat face because he's a French bulldog. And I don't know if he ate this. I don't know if he ate it or not. I didn't see any leftovers if he did, or if the thing might have ran away from him. I don't know. But I've never seen him do that. So
I think this movie has just really affected you to the point where you're starting to see things and reality is starting to crumble around you, babe.
No. No. Our dog is just so weird. Okay, sorry.
You're good.
All right, back. We're done with the spider thing again. Okay. So
it's at this point that while all this is going on, the father is kind of walking around and you see a baby shoe fall out of his pocket and he grabs it, picks it back up, but Kim kind of sees it. And when you see this, it's like a floral pattern baby shoe, but there's blood on it. And at this point, it kind of puts two and two together. You're like, oh, I think Letterkenny might have had something to do with this guy's baby or something, and that's why he's out for blood. So this is where the cop says that he needs to go out to his car because he's got a shotgun out there and there's ammo in the trunk, and he needs them to come out. He needs the father and son to come out with him, and he's like, fuck you, we're not going out there, we had to fight our way in here. And he's like,
that's right,
if you help me, you guys can keep the gun, you guys can, or well, he doesn't say it, they say it's like, well, if we're going out there, we're keeping the gun. And he's just like kind of like a pushover. He's like, yeah, sure, keep the cop's gun. I'm just like, what the fuck, Dan? What the fuck, Dan? And
Steph mentioned Dewey earlier, and I agree. Like, he's very endearing like that as you keep talking about him.
Oh, okay.
I didn't make that connection before, but I can see it.
So, so they, I've got Dan, father-son adventure ensues as they begin to go outside, and they are going to go out to the car. And when they walk out to the parking lot, the car is a lot further away.
A lot.
Like,
yeah.
It was like maybe like 50 feet away from the door, and now you look at it and it's like an entire football field away from them.
I didn't notice that.
They even mentioned, he's like, I didn't park out there. So it's another one of those things of like reality distorting.
Like distorted, yeah.
Yeah, it's super neat. Like this is one of those movies. It's not going to be like Trick or Treat where you're seeing a bunch of little Easter eggs here and there and stuff. But the more you watch this movie, the more of those little things like that you pick up on and just understand how early on in this film shit is fucked up. Like, you think that just like, oh, when monsters or when they find the basement under the basement kind of stuff, that's when it's very prevalent, you're very aware of it. But it's like, no, this shit's been going on for a while. But so they go out, and I have at this point, it says doctor has re-entered the chat. So I can't remember.
Is this when he calls? At one point, the doctor calls James, like, on one of the hospital phones.
Yeah, so they go out, they get the gun, and the cultists show up and give them a hard time. They start surrounding them. One of them swings a knife and gets the son in the hand and everything. One of them gets blasted in the face with a shotgun. The cultist, that is, gets blasted in the face with a shotgun, and they make it in. Yeah, that's right. They end up going to the doctor's office, and they find this box of pictures and what looks like a diary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they come back in, and they're looking for Allison because she's not there anymore, because she left to go get shit when she wasn't supposed to help with this girl, and they can't find her. She's not answering. Kim's left there with the pregnant lady and the grandpa, and so they're like, oh shit, I gotta go find my wife. And that's when they come across the doctor's office, and they're going through all of his shit, and that's when the phone call comes through, and when they see the notebook.
Well, yeah, I forgot about, because it's like the next line that I've got. It says phone ringing, call from the morgue. So that's where the call is coming from, and it's the doctor, and he's like, it's not like, hey, how's it going? He's just like, hello, Daniel. Like, it's very ominous. And this is where like his acting for me just goes, like, he's my favorite. He's the big bad.
He does good when he's the bad guy in this, but I think he's lacking in his normal doctorly way is earlier in the film.
Well, it's hard to be a normal doctor when you're a super evil bastard. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's true.
That's a really good point, actually.
we can't all just be fucking what's his nuts from ER and Dr. McDreamy from fucking Grey's Anatomy. Some of us have to be horrific Lovecraftian abominations. Okay.
When you just mentioned him being like trying to be human, all I could think of was Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
Like, he's the John Lithgow of this movie.
Could you imagine if they recast this and John Lithgow was the doctor? Diane, you bitch. That'd been great.
I love it.
Now we need to crowdfund The Void.
Make it happen.
Yeah, we just recast the entire film with the cast of Third Rock from the Sun. So you get all of them just doing the cast. So that'd be
I
great.
think we can make this happen.
With our 10 listeners, we can make anything happen. But yeah, hold on real quick. Okay, it's not what I thought. All right, I was trying to pull up his quote from this point, because like all of his quotes are like really fitting for like the atmosphere and everything. And it's one of the few times later on in the film that he has like some big dialogue going on, and it's very like expository, like it's explaining kind of what's going on, but it works. Like usually like a big exposition dump, I'm just like, there's no other way to do it, but they break it apart in a way that it works for me anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I thought them being in his office just randomly looking for the wife was like normal happenstance. Like they just came across this room. It wasn't like they weren't looking for it, and then they go in there and they find all this stuff. We see a picture of him and his daughter, because he's talked about losing a child himself. You get to see like this book that the dad finds, and it's got like all this alien type.
Yeah, it's all these like runes and occult symbols and like circles, triangles, and like this is where like your Lovecraft is showing. Like this is like that kind of stuff where it's just unexplainable, like,
but it explains enough without explaining.
Correct, yeah.
Right. It shows you that he's a part of it.
Correct.
And that he's
all you need to know.
Yes, and he kind of becomes the big bad then. So like you don't know who the big bad is, and then you kind of
because when they're going through those pictures, they're seeing like naked people, but then you're also seeing like dead bodies, and then you're seeing these hooded people and the triangle masks and stuff, and you're really connecting it all together at this point. Like, but at the same time, it's like, I just saw this motherfucker get killed. How is he calling us on the phone? So it's still it's as much as it's explaining stuff to you, it's now just adding another question. Like, wait, but how?
Yeah. And at this time, though, we're doing all this with them, and he gets that phone call, and we know that the wife is now with him because he's made it very clear, and that we know that they're in the morgue, and because that's where the phone call is coming from. So I thought that was really clever because it showed that without like explaining anything. And then Kim is left to her own devices with the pregnant lady and the grandpa. And I wrote, Kim's a pussy, because
she's terrible.
She is because like, listen, I don't have any medical training, and I would know what to do, and she is going through medical training and she doesn't know what to do. So I'm kind of like, how dumb do you got to be?
I couldn't help but laugh as she's like flipping through her textbook, like how to do the procedure.
How to do a C-section or something like that.
How to baby. How to baby. Catch baby. All right, got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's just kind of like, you got this, Kim. And she's like, I don't fucking got this. And like, we got other things to deal with. And they're like talking about this is the point where you've got father, son, Dan, and Letterkenny. James. Those are our four. This is our group that we're going to follow for most of this movie. And they are going to go find the doctor in the morgue. This is where it's like the quest thing has shown up on your video game. All right, this is where we are going. And we don't get too far until the father, is like, we're going to get some fucking answers out of James right fucking now. Because he is handcuffed to like a pole. So when they go to gather him up, they are basically just laying into him like, what do you fucking know? Who's involved? What is going on here and everything? And James is freaking the fuck out. So they grab his hand and they put it on the bar, and I believe it's the son is holding the hammer, and the father's questioning James like, we're going to get these answers out of you one way or another. And like he's holding the hammer like he's going to start smashing his knuckles, and the father looks at him, he's like, just make it clean. So he turns it around like he's going to use the claw end of it on his hand, which is just, it's like, oh, it's so bad to have it fucking smashed. Oh, we're just going to fucking gouge it off too.
Yeah.
So they're questioning him, and he's just like, I don't know. And then you just hear the clang of it hitting the bar, and you hear James scream out like bloody murder. And you're left to believe that they hit his hand, but you see that they hit the bar to get his attention. Like, we're going to fucking do it next time. And it's like, what is it? Like some sort of devil worshiping thing? Is it something like that? And he's like, I've got the quote written down where he's like, I don't believe in the devil, but I believe in this. And he has made people change. Like, so he's saying like, it's not the devil, but this shit, like, I have seen this and it is fucking horrible. Because I think that's one of the taglines from this movie is, there is a hell, this is worse. And,
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. It's on one of the shirts of this movie that I own.
Yeah, I think that's where I've seen it before. Yeah.
Well, and this other part, the cop standing there watching all this happen. So you're seeing him being like totally down with this violence. And then he's like, take the whole hand. Like, he does not give a shit. He's like, I want answers and I want them now. And that was kind of eye-opening to me because I was like, damn, he's not fucking around. Mostly because it's his wife. We know that now this guy, the big bad in this movie, has her and he's trying to get to her. And we have got to basically go on this journey to figure out what the fuck's going on. And this is kind of where the momentum of the movie builds, but in like a weird, unique, eerie way that that was just not anything I expected.
I really like the pacing of this movie, especially how like they would throw in, like Nick called it, the stock photo of the clouds. And you had mentioned earlier about like it gives you just enough and you keep getting more questions. I think the pacing of the movie helps with you have that question, but then you're jolted into a different reality or a different scene so abruptly, you lose that question because now you're questioning what's happening on the screen currently.
Yeah, it doesn't go so far as to being like the film is an unreliable narrator or anything like that, but it does make you question like what you're seeing, what's going on. And the more, and it's another thing of like, the more you watch it, the more that you're like, oh, this is what's going, okay, this is everything you're basically seeing is happening. Like, they are experiencing all this stuff because like it's not like a shared hallucination or anything. Like, it legitimately is going on
until a little bit later. But yes,
because we'll get there. But it's off to the burnt out hospital basement morgue. Literally, it's like, hey, what's scary in a hospital? How about the basement? But can we make it scarier? There's a morgue in the basement. What's even scarier? Oh, it's a burnt out one. Oh yeah, that's good. It's literally just once on a hat on a hat on a hat.
Yeah, and they're getting all of their information to go down here from Kim. And she's like, no, this is you go down the stairs and then there's this door. And he's talking to her, like keeping track, like they're communicating as they're on their journey to this girl intern who is legitimately with the pregnant lady and the grandpa. Yeah,
they're using like walkie talkies and she's kind of like walking them through. It's like, no, you're going to go down here and take a left and everything. And they're in this basement and they're being told how to get there, but it's like a labyrinth to them. They're like turning around. They're like, what the hell's going on? And it's like, no, there should be a door right down here. And it's like, well, we found a
that's not a door.
Yeah, we found a staircase going down. Is there some sort of sub basement here? And she's like, there's no sub basement. And it's at that point, I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, that's where I had to ask Nick. And I was like, what the hell? He's like, oh, I think it's distorted reality. Things are changing. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense because she's clearly explaining to them what's going on. And then it doesn't exist. Like it's completely separate. So I liked that because it was like, you're getting a different, like almost like you're walking into a new realm almost in a weird way, but like it's within the world. Yeah. So I liked that.
Yeah. So then she's like, there's nothing about a sub basement. And then we're just like, all right, we're going to go downstairs. It's like what he radios back to her. And I think that's about the last time he's able to radio her because radio does not make from this point forward for him.
Yep. And then they get down further and you see the doctor has drawn something on the ground in the basement, which I thought was really cool. And then that kind of just starts this well, I keep saying the word journey, but it kind of starts like their maze. I called the basement, this part of it, a maze, like, cause that's what they're going through. And it's a distorted maze because it's not only physical, but we learn as the story like progresses, that it's also mental. So you're kind of dealing with an entity here that you can't really name, but it's definitely fucking with these characters and the maze that they have to go through.
Yeah, so it's like it's at this time that so they start going down, we cut to the doctor with Allison on an operating table or a morgue prep table, whatever the proper terminology is, and a
gurney of some sort.
Yeah, it's one of those hard steel tables for all that, and he's starting to explain like I wanted my daughter, I lost her and all this stuff. And he's like talking about the loss of a child is very hard and everything. And it's during this time that he's like, I tried to find all these ways to bring her back to me, but you'd be surprised at what you find when you go looking. Fucking love that. Like, It's so ominous because his delivery through all this is, I don't want to say it's emotionless. It's very matter of fact and very, now listen here, this is what is going on. And this, it's almost like that uncanny valley where he's human, but it seems like someone's putting on being human again. Like, it's just like his way of like, there's not this like, oh, like his elation and stuff about stuff is very like, oh, it's very good. It's like
he's survived death, so like he's living in this new realm and like new experience, and he loves it more than he thought he would. Like, it was a new experience for him because he's been kind of, what he talks about is how he's put all these other people through this, but he himself has never been through it yet. So it's kind of the ending of the true death. Like, that's what I wrote down, because it's like you're not dead, but you are dead. But it's not correct, and it's not in like a zombie-esque way, but like in a living without.
He's evolved past dying. He's evolved past death, and like this whole time that he's talking at this point, like for the first few times that we see this scene, because we cut back and forth to it, he's got his back to Allison, and Allison is like strapped down to this table, and he's explaining these things to him. All the while you're seeing him pull stuff possibly like off of his arm and putting it into like medical like disposal dishes and stuff like that. And you're seeing him legitimately peeling his flesh from himself, but underneath you're not seeing like blood and all this stuff. It's just black. And as the movie goes, you get more and more of that until he's later revealed, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's very cool. It's this like, I don't know, there's not too many movies that do this kind of thing that works for me. And I think the reason it works is because they don't just hand you the whole scene. They give you like 25% of it. And now you're following Dan. I love that
about this movie.
And then we're going to give you another 25%. And then we're going to give you Dan. And I don't know if people give this movie shit for that or not or what, but I really like the way that they were able to keep you focused on both stories without it being like, here's a half hour of dialogue.
Yep.
Yeah. And I like it that also with all these actors, they're not overly like they're matter of fact, get shit done. They're, other than Kim, who's like the one that's freaking out, the rest of them aren't like that. And I like that they're not obnoxious in that way, because you always have that one person usually in movies that is like screaming and crying and acting a fool, and they're usually part of like the main party, and then you get annoyed with them because you're just like, can you kill them already?
It's usually Bill. It's usually Bill Paxton. He's usually like, game over, man, game over.
Yeah. But this movie isn't like that. So I love that we have dad, silent son, and the cop down here, and Dan
and James.
And then James, yes, and they're all in this under basement, and they're in this maze, living their own realities at some points. And then you've got Allison down here, and now that was creepy because then he kind of turns, the doctor does, and they're in this room, and he's missing his face, just like the lady at the beginning of the movie. Barbara, was that her name? Beverly, sorry. So Beverly, and he turns, and you learn obviously that Allison they've lost a baby. And so when you turn around and he's talking about how he ends up like implanting something into this woman. We see it, and he's talking to her about this, and it was really cool. I wrote cool effects because this was really cool. It was very subtle, but when he's like showing like she's been implanted with something, I really liked that because I felt like it looked actually way more realistic than I expected.
Yeah, you're basically seeing, like, because she's not pregnant throughout this entire movie or anything. It's talked about that, like, alluded to, and at this point, you're finding out more and more that she had lost a child, and her and Dan were together, and they were pregnant. She was pregnant. She lost the child, and that's what basically drove the wedge in between them. But through this, like, implantation kind of thing and stuff, you're seeing that she is like full term. Her stomach is huge, and it's not just like full term, it's full term, and you can see stuff bubbling up and moving, and it's not like
crawling in her skin.
Yeah, and it's not like a little bit, it's not like a baby kicking. It's literally like peaks and valleys of inches. Like her whole stomach is just convulsing, and it's super gross.
Yeah.
And I thought earlier in the movie that the doctor and she were in on whatever was happening when they like wanted to keep Dan in the hospital. There was a scene, I think the three of them were in an elevator or something. And the way that the two of them are talking to Dan made it seem right there that they knew something was happening in the hospital and he had to be a part of it.
The bathroom scene after he shoots the girl, throws up and passes out. They're like, no, you need to chill out. We're going to lay you up in a bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't go. You don't want to go. You want to stay.
But literally, like, it's just Allison being like, you fucking shot someone. You're going into shock. You passed out. You possibly had a seizure. Like, they're being honest. But
there was just a way, like, because my head went to, did they trigger the seizure? Or, you know, like how you see those.
There's so much paranoia in this film.
Right.
And it takes that from like The Thing and stuff, which is just an hour and a half of pure paranoia. But
yeah. Okay. So this next part is legitimately probably my favorite part in terms of visuals in this whole movie. So we get this basement
we're
these
not there
guys.
Yet.
Well, we already were at the implanting woman. So what am I missing?
So you got the flares and the occult symbols, right?
Okay.
So when they see those occult symbols written on the ground, they're starting to light their flares and stuff, and we're starting to get a lot of heavy, dramatic, colored lighting. And that's something I love in this movie is all the blues, greens, and reds that they use in this are insanely like saturated and very dramatic.
Okay.
Are you talking about, you said you really liked, okay, so you jump in when I get there. So we cut back to Maggie, the pregnant lady, and she is looking rough. She's looking fucking bad. Like her eyes are kind of rolling back and everything. She's super sweaty and everything. And the grandpa is like trying to, come on, Kim, like, you know, what do you got and everything. And then we cut back to a triangle door in the basement. So they're going through this sub basement and they see a door with a triangle on it. And then I have I think this is what you're talking about. I have the note, now entering hell.
Yeah, it's the basement full of dead / the undead.
Yes.
and there is a lot. And like the guy in there that has a hole in his head, that has a pipe going through it, and all the graphics, and he's just smashing his forehead into this pipe over and over. And it's like, you know, there's no brain matter up there, but he's still functioning. And it's like this and then there's other parts of different other entities in this. And all of this, these are all practical effects. So good, like incredibly made. So we kind of allude to that this is what's going on because he talks about like he won't let them die. So the doctor talks about not allowing his creatures or whatever he did, the undead, his creations to die. He won't let them go, essentially. So he's basically just put them in this room in this under basement, and they're all just like kind of living together in like this. And they don't seem like overly dangerous at first, or
they just
in general.
want to die.
They just want to die.
It's like these physical beings that have. How I look at it and how he's talked about it is he has attempted to make these people transcend like he has. Yes. And they were failures at it. So he just locked them in the sub-basement area, and these things want to die, but he won't let them because that it's almost like that then proves his failure at it, is how I kind of read it. So he's putting his own personal thing of these other things just want to die. And he's like, no, that's the real failure, is letting them die. If they're dead, it's a failure. But instead you have literally some of the grossest visuals of.
You do. And it's like they've turned into these weird creature monsters that don't look very humanoid. They have mild humanoid features, but like they are misshapen, and their bodies are just grotesque. And like there's body parts missing on some of them. And this one guy, like I said, he's banging his head through this pipe on the wall. Like he's a hole through his entire head. And I don't know how they made all this stuff, because we did watch like some of like how they made some of it, but they didn't show us everything. It is fucking brilliant. I'm just saying, like, I don't like a lot of practical effects in certain ways, because I feel like sometimes they look a little cheesy or cheap if they're not done really well, but these motherfuckers know what they're doing. And so this scene with the lighting and the way that it's played out, and then the way that they're kind of introduced into this like hellscape, is just wonderful.
100% agree. And I still don't know how you didn't see Silent Hill.
I know.
Because for this, I saw The Last of Us. If you've ever played those games, you get into some pretty like bloated.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Yep. Those types of zombies that are just like waiting in the dark.
Oh, if you
this screamed video game, like you're about to get fucked up.
If you like that kind of stuff, and like that, we just watched a movie last night. It's called When Evil Lurks. It just came out. It's on Shudder. But it's a Spanish horror. Jesus, excuse me. It's a Spanish horror film, but it's got a lot of that like really good practical effect kind of gloopiness. But like it also though it has a very Last of Us vibe of struggling towards. We don't know. Yeah, we're hoping hope, but yeah, I would check it out if you're looking for, if you like The Last of Us a lot. Like I'll love it. I'll send you the link and stuff so you can check it out.
But you have to be willing to read subtitles.
Yeah, it's all in Spanish. It's all subtitled.
It's all in Spanish. Yep. Yeah.
This does not make this a good or bad movie. I did fall asleep a couple times, but I had a couple drinks, and it was like kind of later in the evening and everything when we put it on. And then Noelle was like, and we're shutting all the lights off and we're doing this. I was like, oh, this does not bode well for me.
You pulled a Tosh.
I totally did. Yeah. Just bust out into some snoring fits in the middle of the movie.
10 minutes in and you're out.
I think I made it. I think I made it a little, like 11 minutes.
Yeah, and then Noelle through the movie's like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. And then she's like making all this commentary. She's like, I can't. Oh my god.
There were some fucking scenes in there that like they foreshadow, and you're like, clearly they're not gonna do that. They're like, oh no, we're gonna do that, and it's gonna be far worse than you thought.
Oh wow.
But no, I'll send you the link. Send you the fucking link to it and everything, whatnot. Cool. Anyway, we're talking about The Void. So where were we? Yes, we are in hell, and I've got like I just quoted for myself, or maybe they said it in the movie. I think I quoted myself. The body is like a moth trapped in a cocoon. Oh, that's the doctor is talking to Allison, and he's talking about how this transformation is working.
Yep. That's what he's doing.
And he says, I lost my daughter to the abyss, but tonight I shall call her back. And I think it's at that point is when you finally see her stomach like gyrating and pulsating.
Probably. Well, I think he like implants it at one point, and then you see another shot where you see more. So like it's kind of like a progressive thing. So
and then I've just got hell exclamation points, telepathic intrusions. So this is the point where you're kind of getting that the doctor is able to like get into people's minds a bit here.
But are we to believe that he's the one that does it, or is it the?
I think he's
the power that's in the basement that's creating that. So maybe there's
the actual. I think he's like the catalyst for it. So like what we will later see is channeled through him, I think.
Right.
Okay,
yeah, so what I want him is like a beacon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what reminds me of, and I just thought of this. So like this area and the way that it kind of plays out, and the way kind of looks like the part in season 4 of Stranger Things when they're visiting with Vecna, and like he's got this weird distorted reality that it kind of reminds me of that, like the colors and like all the bodies, because like there's bodies in that, and that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, so like it's super. This movie's great. I just like every time like cut back. So like I was talking about the dramatic lighting and stuff. So while they're going through the sub basement and everything, it's a lot of red lighting that's set up from the flares and stuff. So that entire scene where you're seeing like the people like smashing their heads, it's all this drastic red light. But then it cuts to the doctor and Allison, and it's this soft like olive green lighting, like almost like green glass. It's like light through green glass is how it almost has like this greenhouse vibe to it a little bit in its lighting. And then we cut back and there is a C-section freak out. So Kim is freaking the fuck out. They're possibly gonna have to do a C-section on Maggie because we're losing her, kind of like she's basically hallucinating a bit and everything is like almost becoming nonverbal and everything. And then we cut back to all the crazy ass zombie hell that's going on. They start to try to escape, and this is where our Letterkenny friend gets got, and this creature that they have here is a real fucking person doing all this backwards crab walking disjointed stuff. That is a guy.
Wow. That was terrifying.
It's crazy. You would see that in like video games and stuff, but this is legitimately a guy. We got to see him on the extra features last night, and he was showing himself like without makeup and stuff doing this, and it was insanity. And I put definite nightmare fuel because this was insanity. And then our guy got
It reminds me of an old Tool video, which did give me nightmares.
Yeah, it definitely has that like Sober and like Song 2. I think it's Stinkfist, whatever. But yeah, that real dark, like jittery kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I love how he's introduced too, because it's just for a short scene. Like they're escaping, and then like the camera kind of cuts to this body that you think is dead, like laying on its back, and it stands up with its torso pushing up. So its arms and legs are back, standing on all fours, and its head's like craning around, and it's the way its joints are moving as it's not crawling, it's walking on all fours with its torso pointing up. So like in a high arch, but how it's walking is so unnerving. And then
it's like a torsionist like that does this, and it's insane.
And he grabs Letterkenny by the leg and pulls him, and you see him get drugged behind the wall, and some blood splatter, and just and they're just like, we got to get the fuck out of here. So father, son, and Lieutenant Dan are fucking out of here. And
then is this when we cut to our pregnant girl area again?
Yep, we cut back, and Granddad's like talking to Kim, like, please, you have to fucking help her. Like, you are the only thing that can save her. And poor Granddad goes the way of Letterkenny. And
by his granddaughter, no less.
Yes, you see his neck get slit and blood spurt, and he collapses. And as he collapses, Maggie is standing there with just pure joy on her face. And Kim's like, what? Why did you do that? And she's like, don't. And it's such a culty, like very Manson Girls kind of vibe. She's just like, don't worry, everything is about to change. And it cuts to Kim, and the fucking like triangle guys are in the doorway. They're all fucking here now. All the like at this point, like previously we've been mentioning the power went out and everything, so everything's on reserve power. We're getting a lot more red lighting in here now. It's just super like, oh shit. Like,
I wish there were more scenes with the cult people outside.
Yeah,
I really liked how they just appear, and then go away.
Yeah,
like there's only one scene where they're, I think maybe one or two, where they're actually moving. When they're moving, I kind of lose it.
It's only during the attacks. It's only when Daniel gets stabbed. Like when he just like raises the knife and comes at him. And then later when the son, like when they're getting into the trunk and he swings at the sun. every other time, stoic, standing
I love
there.
it.
And it's
So good.
it's got that Michael Myers, like the shape, just standing there watching, but then you can't see their faces, so it's just this form. It's very imposing.
There's a show called Devs on Hulu, and those cult people in the forest remind me a little bit of that, where there's like just these like pillars that are in the woods, but it's also that music that's playing, the very, like you said, atmospheric, the very stoic, like sci-fi cult quality.
It sets a fucking mood.
right and it's a good one.
So we cut back to the son, and he starts walking down a corridor, and then he's in a hallway of a nicely lit home that has like...
Well, it looks like they're home. Like they walk in, and then it's like they're now in their head, and they're in their home, and it's like the story of the dad and the son, and they're showing a picture of their family on the wall.
And how they do it is really cool, because like it's like slowly blends in. He's just walking down a hallway. Now he's in the hallway of his home, and you don't know that yet. Like, but he's just like, wait, what the fuck? And you see like a framed picture of him, his dad, his mom, and his young sibling on the wall, and you're like, oh fuck. And he comes into a room, and he sees his dad with his back to him talking to somebody that's not there. And he's like, no, like we can, we can do it. Like, it's okay. Like, just like talking to something that's not fucking there. That scene is so good. It's so creepy because everything you've been seeing, and now it's such a juxtaposition on reality. It's like, for a fact, you are no longer in this basement at this time. And the dad fucking turns around and loses his ever living shit on the son, and is screaming at him that you should have protected them. I wasn't there, and it was your job to protect them. And he tackles his son to the ground and is choking him out with the shotgun, like across his throat. And it's at this time the son grabs one of the flares from his side and pushes it up into the dad's stomach to burn him, to get him off of him,
bring him out of reality.
And then they are back in the basement, like instantly. Once that happens, for lack of a better term, the spell, but like that lapse in reality has been broken, and they're brought back. And the father is like holding his stomach in the corner of this hallway, and he's like apologizing to his son and everything. The whole time, my hat is off to this kid that's playing the son, because he's completely nonverbal in this film, because we didn't talk about it earlier, but the last time that he trusted someone, this happened to him, and he's got like a cut in his throat or something.
I didn't catch that.
So it looks like his vocal cords have been cut somehow. Like,
but he was a great character in this movie. Like, not even communicating, he's amazing.
He emotes
I didn't realize
very
he
well.
Didn't have any lines.
Yeah, he does. He does not speak once. He emotes everything.
Yep, and he's really good at it. I really like him in this movie because of that. He does a great job.
So to not even notice that he didn't speak, but you remember him, like, he must have done a really good job.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. He's very memorable, and he, like you said, if he emotes that well, then I just took it as language. Yeah.
So then after the father-son bonding time, we finally see that the cop has found the morgue. With Lieutenant Dan is at the door, and he goes in and he finds Allison laying there on the table, and he puts his hand on her stomach, and they have like a nice little moment together, and you start hearing the voice of the doctor. And I wish I would have had the quotes of this, but you know what, like, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched this movie and this sounds interesting enough, the movie is so much better than what we're able to put on, because all of these quotes that the doctor is saying here it's so ominous and everything. And so basically the doctor is talking about, like, there was, she wanted to be a mother. That was the one thing that she wanted, and the world took that from her. But look, I have now made her a mother. I have given her that gift. And it's at this time that Dan is holding Allison's hand, and initially when he goes in there, it's a nicely lit room and he's with Allison. And then when he says that, like, I've given her the gift that she's always wanted, the green light of the room appears again and he looks down at the hand, and when he opens the hand, it's just ash in his hands. And then the camera kind of cuts back a bit and you see Allison's body, supposed body, on this morgue table with all of these massive, I can only describe them as like jungle vine tentacle things.
It was so cool.
Stretched out all over the room, like almost like she was the petri dish, and whatever was in her just didn't explode out, but like it's just reaching out and is like bracing itself all over this room.
To me, she's like an alien mother in that way. Like she's the core, and then everything's just growing from her.
Yeah, she's like the host.
And it was creepy as hell because it's the entire room. Like, I loved that they did not go small on this. Like, they were like, we're going to go and we're going to go out swinging. We're not going to just do something small. We're going to make her. Now, it's sad because it's like, they lost a baby. Now she's on this table and she's obviously dead or going to be dying at some point because she's now this creature and or something. Well, a creature's growing out of her.
That's the thing. She might be part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's even worse.
How I took it. Like, with thinking that she and the doctor were already in cahoots, I thought like she was it.
Yeah.
Like her consciousness is still in that thing.
Oh,
and then the sad part is what happens next with him and her.
Yeah, he's been dragging around this axe dealing with things. And when he realizes that Allison is no longer Allison, we see him ready the axe. And I think this is just really good. Like, it cuts to the outside of the morgue and you see him bringing the axe down. Like, you don't see it happen. They show you enough, but like in these emotional spots, they don't need it to be gratuitous. You just see the silhouette of it happening beyond the morgue window with a little blood splatter on the window, and the camera is like slowly pulling back, and it's legitimately like heartbreaking.
Yep, and he has to basically kill his wife, and that's just really messed up. But it was really well portrayed, I thought.
So after he's done doing that, we get he's standing there in the morgue, and that room now becomes a new room that I've just got written down as the triangle room, which again, watching the special features, this is all practical. They build this entire room. This is all
in a gymnasium. This room is all just, I think he said, like, the one guy was like, it's like 20 odd some gallons of paint on foam and all this. And it's all this like real stark architecture, stone work with this huge, like, glowing triangle at the back, like basically like if it were a church, because I believe that they even refer to this, the creators, as the temple. And it definitely has that feel. So you've got medical tables where like the pews would be, and this again, so stupid. This is so Silent Hill. Medical tables where the pews are supposed to be, some stairs, like a couple stairs go up to this, like the stage. You've got a few of the triangle cultist members there. And you've got this silhouetted man standing in front of this large triangle, and it turns out to be our doctor friend. And he Dan basically is just like, how could you do this? Like, what in God's name are you doing, basically? And he says, I defy God. There are things much older. Straight up Lovecraft. Ancient old ones. Just all the love here.
It's good.
Well, and he also asks him, he says, what do you see? And then Dan's like, I see a monster. And then the doctor's like really disappointed that he doesn't come back with something better. And he's like, he says that he's blessed. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
All of the dialogue here, like, you can tell that like when the script was written, they were like, these guys, stuff's going to happen, whatever. But they're like, let's get all the good lines and just give it to the doctor. Because all of his stuff is so big and grandiose. Like, it's always it paints this like I am beyond death, like all this kind of stuff. And it's really cool. And it's at this point that he says that he's basically glad that he's here because he's going to be able to get to witness the rebirth of his daughter.
Yeah, this was fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have, it's a beautiful baby girl and baby is hungry. So
I hate that they made the baby sound.
I loved it. But
why?
So what happens is, so Maggie's there. And
well, Maggie walks up behind him and stabs him in the back.
Yes.
And Dan in the back. And then I'm like, holy shit, like what is going on? And then she joins the doctor in like this elated face. Like she's so excited to be there with him to birth his baby. Like she's part like this. And this is the one thing I was asking Nick when we watched this. It was like, and I'm curious to see your take on this, Tasha. Do you think that she intentionally was like birthed, like she got pregnant by this doctor because it sounds like she's carrying this doctor's baby? Or do you think that like his mentality, like his, whatever his reach is with his like powers has then seeped into her while she's in the hospital and then turned her into his like disciple and made her this way?
I was originally thinking the former, that she willingly like became his host, like
okay.
So you think
was impregnated.
You think they had relations outside of this?
Right.
Okay.
I think she knew him somehow before, and like knew what was happening. I never would have thought the other.
See, I didn't get it that way. I thought it was literally like how I read it was this stuff's happening and like it's almost like the pregnant lady showed up and he's like, it's time. That baby is going to be the host for my daughter, is how I read it. The way that you guys read it makes it even grosser and creepier.
It does, because she's a teenager, but I don't know what the answer is. And the only reason why my argument with this is my argument with it though is that she is writhing in pain and pregnant, and she has this different disposition earlier in the film where she's like with her grandfather and she's like very innocent, and like I don't think that she's putting on a play here. Like, I don't feel she's a teenager. Like, I don't think that that's what she's doing. So when Nick said, when I was like, this doesn't make any sense, when he was like, well, I think that basically it's his thrall or whatever, like he's pulling her into this atmosphere and like creating this. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense too. But at the same time, this has been her doctor.
But so I think something about the unconscious and like near death or dying has something to do with when this comes out, because if you remember the point, I see the point of Kim is because she's inept and she gives the pregnant girl who already has the creature inside her something to knock her out. That's why her eyes are rolling in the back of her head and she passes out,
I didn't
or
even
possibly dies because she's overdosed on whatever Kim gave her.
I didn't even make that connection.
Oh, that's true. She probably died. That's true. Right. I didn't even think about that. She probably died. Not that they kept talking about her maybe dying, or the baby died,
or at least saw the other side like Dan has,
right?
Like went under, and then that's when he's able to get his hooks in.
Right.
Is that
so she's seen something somewhere.
God damn.
Yeah, that's true. No, I agree with Tasha. She's right.
Because there's a million different ways. Because I mean, it's even alluded to, like there's like this sex cult thing going on, and people come in and come out. She could have very well went there and got knocked up that way. Well, no, that's what was going on. Like when James is talking,
the bloodbath.
Yeah, when James is talking and stuff, is like he's talking about the doctor. He's like, he would pay to watch us have sex and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. So there's a million different ways that this could have happened. But yeah, like all of them are right.
And he is her doctor. Like we made that clear. And so like, yeah, Tasha's right. That's probably exactly what happened. She probably died, and that's where that changed over. Because that was the only thing that it didn't make much sense to me. Like it made sense, like in the sense of why he used her and did all that stuff. But like there was like that snap, like we were the writhing girl on the floor and trying to have a baby. And then now we were this like very happy, but if she died, she would be in that like euphoric state. She's the dead undead, and he was using
because that happened right before Grandpa got killed.
The only reason I don't think she's actually dead, I think it's more the unconscious to conscious thing, is because when he quote unquote blesses her right now, and she's like, bless my baby, she freaks the fuck out.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
true.
So I think that she went under, and like once her brain waves or whatever got so low to wherever Lieutenant Dan's brain got to see like stock photos and stuff.
Yeah.
So she got to see some stock clouds, and then that's when the doctor got his hooks in her, and that's when she comes up and kills him.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, so she comes up to the doctor after stabbing Lieutenant Dan in the back, like with a huge fucking knife. All these goddamn cultists have these massive like hunting knives. Stabs him in the back. He collapses down, and she goes up to the doctor and is like, "Bless my baby," you know. And it's super creepy. And then this is also, my God, we're not even talking about this. This is the first time we get to see the doctor in all of his glory, in this weird, like black, like musculature. All of his flesh is gone, and Steph has a description for him.
He looks like Vecna. Like if you've watched like the way that they show him in like Stranger Things, he looks almost exactly like that.
I was wondering
like,
where he looked familiar from.
It's the face mold.
Right.
The how they made his face look is very similar.
Right.
Yeah, he's like a mix between like Vecna in that show, or what like they would show him as, and then Skeletor is what it also reminded me of a little bit.
But like not to, you know, be like meh, but it's like this came out before that. So Vecna looks like the doctor. I'm just saying.
You're right.
Hey, Duffer Brothers, what the fuck? you got your Void, my Stranger Things, guys.
Yeah.
But so we got the beautiful baby, and so she's freaking out. Starts screaming. You see her collapse down on one side of a gurney as Lieutenant Dan is on the other side of the gurney, and she's like on her back, like freaking out. You can only see her like from the shoulders up, and you hear the ripping of flesh and just a sea of blood erupt on her face and out from the bottom of her legs.
Yeah.
And you hear like the weird, it's not crying as much as it's like but it's like this baby's cry cooing, and you see its legs. I can't even describe. The knees are backwards. It's got like one single claw. It's like a mixture of like raptor talons.
It's an amalgamation of a bunch of shit.
It stands
You're not
up.
supposed to be able to describe it.
The one thing I can describe is from its cheekbones up, because it totally is a fetal skull. And then the whole lower mandible and stuff is just like dreadlock length tentacles just hanging down off of its face. And it starts to like prowl around, and it starts to hunt down, like chase down the father and son. I might be missing something. How it gets to
they came in to like get rid of it. So like they show up, father and son do. They break into this room or this reality or whatever it is, and then it's like their face off against the baby, and then father and son, and the monster starts going after them, and it's dragging its mother attached to it still.
I love that so much as a creature design. It's so good.
Yeah, it is neat. And then the dad basically, you know, starts fighting with it and gets underneath it because he can't kill it. And the son, and I already knew this was going to happen, so we were kind of earlier in the movie. They are going to go get some supplies, and the dad grabs a bunch of alcohol and puts it in his bag. And they had already grabbed some flares from the car earlier, and I was like, well, they got flares and they got alcohol. I'm like, they're gonna light that bitch on fire. And that's what I said when we were watching this movie, and that's exactly what they did.
Once they started grabbing the alcohol, you're like, that's smart. Like you instantly like called that out, like in scene. You're like, well, that's smart. They're grabbing the isopropyl alcohol.
Yep, I was like, that's gonna burn something, and it did. And they used it for like the end all be all for the baby, I guess.
Well,
so
and like that scene where it happens so much is happening in such a short amount of time, because like the father's fighting the baby, then the baby, then the baby gets the upper hand and is like on top of him, and then it starts shooting tentacles, like barbed tentacles into his chest, and like starts burrowing into him as he's yelling to his son to kill it. He starts to pour the alcohol on himself. The son lights a flare in the light. I love this so much. He lights the flare. Behind him, as he's holding the flare, you see his mother holding his younger sibling as he holds it for a second and throws the flare at the dad, and they erupt into flame. And that is like 30 seconds, maybe. It is so tense in that moment. And I don't think the first time that I saw this that I noticed the mom and the child the first time.
I noticed it. And then I also really liked the hesitation of the son. Like, I don't want to kill my father, but my father's telling me to fucking do it. His dad just like, fucking kill me. Let's kill this motherfucker kind of thing. And like, I like that because like the son doesn't really want to do this, but he's doing it because it's the only option they have, essentially.
It's a mercy kill. Kill him now or let him suffer and possibly become one of these things.
Something else. Exactly. Yep.
It's hard. And all of this like emotion that this son is showing is completely without speaking.
Yes.
So,
yep.
The son is getting the fuck out of here now. So that happens and he starts taking off. Dan is like coming up to the doc. So it cuts back to Dan and he's crawling to the doctor and giving him some shit and everything. And he puts an axe into the doctor's shoulder, and the doctor does not fucking care and grabs Dan by the throat and just picks him up. And he's just saying like, if all you want is Allison, you know, all you have to do is let go and I can give that to you. And it might be at this point, but it might be like a little bit previously. He's talking about, you know, there's this area beyond here. There's this place, the Void. He doesn't name drop it as the Void, but he's like, the Void over here. You know, you've seen it. I know you've seen it. I was there when you saw it. I've seen so much about you. Like he's even like when Allison lost the baby, I saw you then and I saw your relief of it. Oh, yeah. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And he's like, you want Allison? She's beyond this door. I can give you to her. Like, or I can give her to you. Like everything's there beyond this gigantic triangle door that's been pushed inward. And all you have to do is let go. And it's at this point that Dan straight up just yeets the doctor into the Void, just tackles him through, and they both go careening through the door. And we cut back to the sub basement beginning to crumble, and the baby is chasing the sun. And I love the way that they did this because it's like this like fleshy, gross hallway and the walls are closing in. It's all practical. These are just walls with people behind them slowly pushing the walls together as they're running through it. And the sun dives out, and as he dives out, the door closes. The hallway itself closes. He looks back. He's in the hospital in reality, looks back, and there's no doorway that he jumped through. He jumped through the doorway has sealed. I love that shit.
I do too. I like the way they ended that. That was really nice.
So he looks back, the doorway's missing, and the son finds Kim. They have both survived the night. And we cut to the ominous visage of the Void, and we see Dan and Allison on vacation in the Void as they stand there looking at what is in front of them. And it's more of that just dark, brooding music. And you see this like slowly kind of brought into view, this huge floating pyramid just floating in the sky, and this wind-swept, desolated area and everything. And then you see them hold hands, it cuts to their faces, and then black. And that's the end of the fucking movie.
I like it.
I liked that. I could have actually done without the ending, like that ending, because I think that was nice to make it a little cleaner for everybody, to make them not feel so bad. I think that was like your little, oh, we kind of put you through hell. We're going to be a little nice to you and give you a little bit of a happily ever after in your own weird, twisted way. I didn't feel like that was necessary, but I understand.
I like that it. Go ahead.
I like that it showed that the void still exists, even though that the portal's closed.
I could have done without seeing Dan and Allison.
Correct.
To just show what is beyond the void without them, because even then, like, I know there's not a lot of CGI and they didn't really talk about this scene, but it's clearly them in front of a green screen. Like, basically Allison's hair is like moving, and that's what kind of made me go like, oh, okay, I can kind of see the shitty practical effects. That's the only thing in this entire movie that I can pick out. But yeah, I wish that he would have dove in there. Boom, everything's, clunk, 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 and then we just cut to ominous music, the massive pyramid. Boom. And that's the only thing that would have, I think that would have given me a half a point more.
Yeah, I agree, because I don't feel like it was necessary for us to know what happened with Dan and then Allison somehow now normal again. Like, I didn't have enough of a investment in them. I mean, like, I liked them as characters, but they served their purpose, and so like I didn't feel like I needed them to walk into into heaven, whatever.
Clearly not heaven,
but no, but you know what I mean. Like, that's the scene that you're getting. It's like, oh, we're happy now. Like, I don't think
they're happy. They are like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, but they don't. But they're not terrified, and there's not like burning flames and stuff, and like they're not showing that's like this is terrifying.
I don't know. It definitely, like, the way that I read their faces was like, oh shit, like that kind of like I asked for you, but at what cost?
I didn't take into account everything else.
Yeah, and then the pyramid. I was like, I wrote down ancient aliens ? Like, what does this signify exactly? We don't know. Obviously,
I love that you don't know
this.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, in Lovecraftian stuff, like they took influence from, but this is not like a Lovecraft story. Like, a fucking floating pyramid could be sentient in that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense to us because it's beyond our comprehension, and that's what they lean into for that.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, I liked how they played all that together, and like basically he summoned them, like summoned this power, summoned this whatever.
I don't think he summoned it. He found it through his searchings of how to get past.
He found it, but he had to summon it because there was drawings on the floor in the basement, and there was no way that there wouldn't be no reason to write and draw runes on the basement if you're not summoning something.
I look at it as more not so much summoning as just opening a doorway to it.
Yeah,
he's not calling it to them.
Okay, yeah,
he's just opened a doorway.
He didn't know what was going to happen, but he found a key and did something with it.
Correct, and then the thing it's calling all the cultist members to it. But he's not in control. The doctor is not in control. It's whatever that pyramid thing is in control.
But he is in some kind of control because he is harnessing power, because he wouldn't be able to get into their minds and stuff and do what he's doing if he wasn't harnessing power that was gifted to him.
Gifted to him. It's not that it's not that he took it from the thing. I think it's a lot more of he thinks he's top dog. He's not top dog.
He plays a god, like his own version of a god, essentially, in this movie, and like the ego is there with that, and then allowing others to suffer for his benefit, essentially, is what ends up being, because he wants his daughter back, and that's kind of how it plays out a little bit.
So that's The Void. Before we go into our review, like our actual scored reviews and stuff, I do have a little thing for our listeners. If what we've talked about with the music and stuff, I'll bring it up one more time. Lustmord, if what you heard and stuff in this film was something that you're interested in, check them out. And yeah, just dark, ambient, brooding stuff.
What about, it also mentioned like Blitzen?
Yeah, there's some other people. I didn't write them all down, but like
that's the one that I kept picking up on.
Yep, there's a few of them, but like the one that I had history with that I saw was Lustmore. There's a couple people, and I'm I'm sorry that if I'm disparaging them by not mentioning their names and stuff. It's just that's the one that I remembered. But all right, I'll get mine out of the way. I'll make mine short and sweet. This movie is a certified banger. I personally think that this is required viewing for anybody that wants to dip their toe into horror in the last 10 years. If you want to see something that you have not seen before, if you've watched your Saws, you've watched the Conjurings, and you just want something a little different, you gotta fucking watch this movie. Personally, it might not be for you, but it definitely will not be like everything that you've seen. And I've seen a lot of fucking horror films, and this is still like, yeah, it wears its influences on its sleeve and stuff, but it's not trying to say that like, no, we came up with all this. It's a love letter to 80s horror. It's a love letter to weird horror, sci-fi horror, and all that stuff. It does have a couple things that keep it from getting that 10 out of 10 rating and stuff like that. But the sound design, what they were able to do with the lack of budget and everything, persevering through everything that it did, I am safe to say I'm bringing it down a half a point, specifically because Kim is super annoying, and we didn't need to see Dan and Allison's vacation at the end. Those are, I want to see that area at the end. I just don't need to see Dan and Allison there. For that, it lost a half a point, which still rings it in at 8.5 for me. I was leaning, I think I had a 9 written when we sat down and then we talked about it, and those two little things, I was like, I don't feel so comfortable giving it a 9. Like 9 territory is up there. 8.5 though, still fucking phenomenal movie. Have to watch it. If you can, check it out. Watch it with at least one other person so you can talk about it afterwards.
So you don't think that Kim's role served an important purpose?
No. I'm not saying that it didn't.
Like she was supposed to be annoying.
Yeah, no, she was supposed to be annoying. I don't think that she deserved to live.
Oh, just the ending with her being survivors.
Yeah, I would have been completely cool with the son being the only survivor. She somehow, like, she's just completely inept, and
then he has no way to tell anybody about what he saw.
Yeah, and just has to fucking live with it. Like that makes it so much worse.
Yeah, it does.
Or we have, or instead of killing Grandpa could have just got knocked out. And then we could have had our grandpa as survivor, because I really liked him. We could have
had Maggie kill Kim.
Yes.
That would have been... But yeah, those are my reasonings. Like there's like little... I have to fucking be an asshole about stuff. Like Evil Dead 2 gets what it gets because it changed me molecularly. This one I saw as an adult and everything, so it's not going to have its hooks in me like the Doctor does Maggie. But... 8.5, still fucking great. On any other day, I might give it a 9. If you ask me, I've had a few too many, I might give it an 11. But yeah. Okay,
that's fair. All right, Tasha, what do you give it?
I really liked this movie.
Yes.
I'm shocked to hear that, because I didn't know if you would, because sometimes something like this will be hit or miss, so I wasn't sure.
Right, I wanted to text Nick after watching it, but I knew I would just save it for today and see. I didn't have a ton to say about it because it is so like otherworldly, and it's really hard to put a lot of what we see into words. But I loved the multi-dimension aspect of it. I love movies and books where you time jump or dimension jump. I really liked the slowed down pace of those, like kind of like cutscenes where it was when you were in the void. I thought those were really nicely timed between the pace of the hospital, and then in some cases, like there would be an actor in the middle of an action, like walking or reaching down, and it would just cut. And I thought that was really nicely done because it was almost off, but not enough to be like problematic and like super noticeable. Like it was intentional.
It's like it kept you uncomfortable.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you never knew when it was going to come, and it's going to come in not necessarily the most perfect of times. So I really liked that. The acting for as low budget as it was, I thought was really good, because that can kind of pull me out of a movie in some cases. But I liked the slice of life aspect of this movie, as intense as it was. I wish there was more of the cult people. We don't really get to learn anything about them, but I'm also okay with that because everything gets wrapped up nicely at the end. Everyone served a purpose. The character development was lacking, but we've talked about that before. In some cases, it doesn't matter, because I think in this movie, the biggest character is the void itself. And then the people were just part of it. They had to be there to serve their purpose. So with all that being said, I'm giving it a 7.5. Nice. I will watch this again. I am interested to watch it again and to see what other things I can piece out of it.
I'm so fucking
solid
happy.
Choice, Nick.
I'm so happy.
From the beginning, I was sucked in. And then, like, a lot of cases, I'm not a huge monster movie fan, but there was something about how this was done. And I think a lot of it had to do with that otherworldly dimension. Just that triangle alone was enough to get me hooked in, like, okay, this all makes sense, because none of it makes sense.
Yes.
Like that. I see that other world. Okay, cool. That's where the monsters come from. That's where they go. Whatever. It works.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think this was probably one of the other few movies we all agree on. So
Wow.
that was good. Yeah, I was going into this thinking this movie was going to be shitty and that I wasn't going to like it because,
because it was a
Because Nick fucking has shit taste.
Yeah, he sometimes, yes, like sometimes he's like, we got the Reanimator, and that was
who brought
one
Buffy
hell of a
to the
movie.
table? Who brought Buffy to the table?
You'll never live that one down.
No, but I did not claim that movie was great. That's the difference.
Oh, okay.
You do claim that these movies are good.
Okay.
So, like, I just wanted to rewatch it just for the sake of rewatching. But this movie, like Tasha said, was like sucked in from the very beginning. I'm sorry if you guys can hear a purring dog, but you can't hear him. Okay,
I can.
Can you?
Can you?
Yeah.
He's purring like crazy as I pet him on my lap.
Fine.
So
Wade is our special guest.
Okay. I was sucked in from the beginning. It was very harsh though, because it was like death, light a lady on fire, and then it was like, holy shit, what are we getting into? And then I really liked this movie, especially knowing the budget, and then with the acting, and then the creativity of this movie, and just what they could accomplish with such little. I am beyond impressed by that in general, just because I know that, you know, their time constraints and all of the issues that they had. I mean, that doesn't change my rating because I don't think that's fair, but I do have a more of appreciation for it overall, because knowing like all the work that went into this with as little budget as they had. So I do think this is a movie that if you like practical effects and you like Alien-esque type stuff, you should definitely watch this. I think I'm going to recommend this to our horror-loving children, and I think they would also probably like this as well. And that being said, I don't really have any complaints on this movie overall. Like, I feel like the pacing's really good. Yes, the ending with the, like Nick said, with the little clean tie-up, like I said, was a little it was unpredictable in a lot of ways, and I am usually the person that points out most stuff, so I liked that I couldn't predict most of this movie, so that was actually a pleasant surprise, because that doesn't happen very often. And I'm gonna go with, I was kind of falling between between 7 and 8, so I'm gonna go with a 7.5 like Tasha did, and I think that's pretty solid, because I'm pretty hard about most of my ratings. So yeah, 7.5.
Oh, I heard him there.
Thanks, Wade.
That sounded like
Wade agrees.
Wade has entered the chat. That sounded like a fucking fart.
It's not. He's purring.
He's so happy. All right,
That's a 23.5.
divided by 30. Gives us a 78.
Okay.
78. Still really good.
That's pretty good.
That's right under Evil Dead.
That's higher than I think what like the internet has given this movie.
Yeah, I think so far our top 3: Scream, Evil Dead 2, and The Void.
Yeah, and 2 of them are definitely more practical effects, like crazy, wildish, and then Scream is
still all practical.
Yeah, but it's a slasher movie, so like it's definitely different in the sense of what you're getting. But
I like how the 3 are very different from each other.
I like the fact that the 3 are 3 movies that I've brought to the table.
All right.
But on fairness, we all like Scream. You have all brought a lot of movies. You have brought more movies to the table than I think we.
Yeah, absolutely. So. It's we're not talking about the numbers here. I mean, 3 out of a billion.
Biased, yeah.
But
Nick, I really do want you and Steph, if you're into it too, I think you guys should check out Devs. It's just DEVS.
All right, send me the link.
Okay, it's a series on Hulu.
Okay.
I have Hulu.
All right.
Yeah, we do.
Let me see here. So, guess what? It's movie club time.
I think I know what we're watching.
So,
if I'm
when
right.
our next episode comes out, it's right around turkey time.
Yay!
I love it.
So for turkey time, I know you girls already know what film we're doing.
Oh yeah, this is awesome.
So what movie are we doing for turkey time?
The Menu.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing The Menu.
And this is a movie all 3 of us have already seen.
Yeah, so this might be outside of Scream, this might be the only other film we've all seen prior to this.
Yeah, and it'll also be another one that, we'll have some varying interesting opinions on. Yeah. So I'm excited to see it again because I've only seen it once and I haven't gone into watching it with more of a critical eye. So I'm excited to see how well that plays out once I do.
I'm excited to see Anya Taylor-Joy again. So
yeah.
So for Pot of the Dead, I am Nicholas.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Natasha.
And come back and listen to us. Or else.